When are we going?
How's it going, friends and family of the internet? Welcome to the Really FTV podcast, the show about fishing and random takes from the land of 10,000 lakes. I'm one of your hosts, Josh LaBaw.
And I'm Tim Wagner over here just like, I don't even
Hey, where
know.
are we going?
Just
I come in hot.
now.
Yeah. Yes. Oh, fuck yes. Dude, I love it. I love that so much.
Woo!
Yeah.
Good way to
All right,
start.
if you didn't know, this is a podcast that drops every other Monday. Every other week, we drop the full podcast on the off week over on YouTube. You can look us up, Real AF TV. Remember, Real like Fishing Real. We split the thing up where we put the fishing on Wednesday and we put the random take on Friday, and we go ahead and keep that rolling around to the next Monday where the new podcast comes out again. That's how this whole thing drops. That's our schedule. That's the easiest way to put it. That's the schedule. In case you didn't know.
Yeah.
So Tim, let's kick it off right away. Fishing news. Let's do the thing. I can't even. So you know how I usually do like a clickbait headline? Like I usually make up my own headline because they're not necessarily like clickbaity. I can't do one. I can't do one here. Largest freshwater fish caught ever.
That is clickbait, but real clickbait. Like you're
yes.
You went and got yourself some cutfish. That's real life chopped up fish. We are using it as bait, but there's nothing fake about it.
Yep.
I'm curious. Let me guess. It's the biggest freshwater fish ever caught?
Yeah, dude. The biggest freshwater fish caught ever. Like it's literally the biggest freshwater fish on record.
It's not in America, is it?
It is not in America.
No, because we don't have.
Guess the continent.
Africa.
No, that's a good guess though. Asia.
Asia is like what would have been my second guess, but I was thinking of like. I don't know. I was thinking of like cichlids and stuff are African, and I was like, maybe there's like a big version of that. But actually, where's Egypt? Is that in Asia?
Africa. That's North Africa.
That is Africa. That's what I was thinking. I was thinking Egypt's got those like pharaoh perch or whatever. Okay.
Yes.
I was wrong. Is it a catfish?
No, but the previous record before this one was a catfish at 646 pounds.
Phew. Oh man.
Isn't that fucking crazy? So that fish, 646 pound catfish, was caught on the same river just in Thailand. This one was caught on, and I'll say the river now since we're there. It was the Mekong River, I believe is how you say it, in Cambodia.
Oh.
So the Mekong River, just on the Thailand part of it, was a catfish. Now the Mekong River in Cambodia produced a 661 pound, 13 foot long stingray.
Oh, it's a stingray.
Yeah, dude.
Whoa.
That shit is crazy, right?
Long or wide? Oh man, I would want to see the dimensions of this thing.
So
I bet it's long because I bet the tail, if you measure nose to tail.
So they said that it said something in because I just got this from NBC, but when you look it up, if you just look up world's largest fish, right? Like it comes up all over the place. I just clicked on the NBC one.
Yeah.
Because I was on a Microsoft product. Anyways, they did say something about like the tail, like they measured to the tail. And so it was definitely including the tail, but it's like a perfect disc. If you look up the image, it's like a perfect disc with the tail sticking out of the side of it. So, or out of the back of it. So I got to figure that thing is still at least 10 feet round.
Right.
Dude, it was fucking crazy.
Dude, because I remember like when you see the manta rays, those in like the books when we were kids, like they compare it, like they put it like a, like the overlay of like a manta ray with like a single engine plane, and you're like, Jesus Christ, that thing's as big as a plane. And
Right.
like, so I could totally see a ray getting that big, but I didn't know stingrays got that big. I thought the manta ray was like a freak thing, but the manta ray is also like big enough to like where if that's in the area that you're at, they'll like tell you to get out of the water like it's a shark. They're like, manta ray, everybody get out of the water. I didn't know they like fuck with people.
Oh fuck, I
But
didn't
do
know
you
that
have
either.
any idea?
But it probably doesn't do it on purpose. It probably just opens its mouth and has no fucking clue what it's doing.
I'm guessing that for some, like, it must have been a shallower river, because if that thing was deep, I don't think you catch it.
That is one of the crazier things that came out of the story. So the manta rays you're talking about, that's some saltwater shit.
Right, yeah,
This is
big.
completely, which I didn't know. They said this is the biggest freshwater fish ever caught. And by freshwater fish, we mean this thing never left the freshwater.
Right.
They're completely freshwater stingrays.
Yeah.
And this is one of those that goes down to the bottom. Like, it just looks like a normal stingray with the mouth on the bottom.
Yeah.
It says it's got a mouth like the size of a banana, and it just sucks shit up off the bottom. And
it's not that big for how big.
I know, for a fucking 13-foot, 600-pound fish, a banana, dude.
Oh,
I know.
He's apparently eating enough with that banana shaped mouth. That dude, that's a big old stingray.
So 42-year-old Mool Thun, 42-year-old dude in Cambodia, fucking caught this thing on a reel and hook, dude.
Yeah, that's crazy. See what I'm saying? It's super nuts. And I'm saying that I bet it was like a shallower river, because I bet he was pulling it more like straight in and not up. That 10-foot thing, like trying to pull it up because of how they swim.
Yeah.
Dude, they fight like hell. My sister, we were in Florida, and my sister caught a stingray, and that thing wasn't even the size of a dinner plate. And we thought she had something huge because she couldn't pull it up. I mean, God. It put up the best fight of the day.
Yeah.
And I had some like 3 or 4 pound like sea trout or whatever. Like, so those are, legit fish. They're not huge by any means, but best fish
muscle.
Yeah. But the best fish of the day was, if you were to weigh hers, maybe 2 pounds.
Oh my God.
At best.
Right. Half the weight.
So you times the best fight of the day by 300. What the hell, dude? That's crazy.
Isn't that fucking crazy? So I don't know how deep the river was where this was pulled out of. It didn't say that in the article, but that river, 90 feet deep at some points. It pools up to 90 feet in a river, dude.
I can believe it. Some of those rivers, how long they've been there, that shit just keeps cutting away.
Right.
But to have it be 90 feet deep means that there's like a source of water. I suppose like some of the Asian countries would be a good one to do it, because they're in like the, kind of a rainforesty type setting.
Yeah. And Cambodia and Thailand and all those are in that area. So it's all coming out of I think that's the Himalayas, but it's all coming out of the mountains into the rainforest. And yeah, for sure, it's that area.
Crazy stuff.
Yeah, man.
Cambodian breast milk, you made my day. I don't have any. Oh,
I know. I don't have glass.
That's a Chappelle reference in 2 episodes straight. If anybody's keeping track, let's see how many we can do.
If you're out there keeping track, send us that Excel sheet later in the year. We'll read it on the air.
Yeah, we'll see how it goes. We're starting off this 3rd year. Chappelle in every episode.
So I'll put the link, of course, in the description. But I also had to look this up, Tim, because I was like, a stingray? Come on, is that really a fish? You know, you hear catfish.
Well,
The
yeah.
previous record was a catfish, and I looked up stingrays.
Yeah.
Yeah, they're fish.
Yeah, when you said it, I was like, I was going to say, is it a fish? But I think technically, I don't know 100% what qualifies you as a fish. Like,
Right.
if you have gills and you breathe water,
I think that's
then
what
you're a
it
fish.
takes. Right. I
Yeah.
think that's what it takes, because when I was looking it all up, it basically it boiled down to this one line, and I was like, oh, there we go. You got me. They're kind of related to sharks. Well, yeah, they're made out of the same
Oh,
shit,
yeah.
right? Think about it. Just a different shaped
Yeah.
shark, and you go,
Oh, yeah.
that's
You ever
magic.
touch one? You touch them at the, you know,
At the touch zoo at the
the
aquarium.
touch zoo. Yeah, the fish touching farm.
Yep.
Whatever. They feel a lot the same. The
Right.
sharks are rougher,
Right.
but yeah, that makes sense.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yep.
I don't know if they do have gills. Now I gotta do a deep dive on stingrays.
They got gills.
Do they?
Yeah.
I thought they did. I thought there was like some lines over here that kind of opened
They're
up.
like behind the eyeballs, kind of. Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yep.
Oh, on the top. That's right.
Yeah, like on their head, on that tube
Yeah.
on the top
Okay.
before it goes into flat. So, yep, that's when it got me. I was like, oh yeah, sharks, the gills behind the eyes. It made me think about the gills. I think some have them on the bottom if they're saltwater. I don't know, but they
Well, I think
definitely.
like the manta ray looks like it has gills because it has its mouth kind of opens up like how a whale
filters.
does. Yeah.
Yep.
And they got like the big flaps in the front too, whatever the hell those things do.
Right.
Diddle-diddle-diddle-doo.
Force in food, probably. Anyways,
Helps you
okay,
teach
we're
other
sidetracking
fish
on
in Finding Nemo.
right.
There's
sidetracking.
nothing to see here.
Nothing to see. And that's how we're going to transition into housekeeping. We got on a little side tangent of stingrays, but now that they're fish, shit, maybe we'll do a whole episode on it. Who knows? I got to put it down
Yeah.
on the list.
Now that they're fish shit.
Now that they're fish, shit. Okay, housekeeping. This episode is brought to you by Monster Bass and Real AF TV's Patreon page, but we'll get to that later. Please go over to realaf.tv/contact. That's real like fish and real. Remember, realaf.tv/contact, and give us feedback on the show. Or you can go over to YouTube and just leave a comment, because we are on YouTube as well. Same thing. If you look us up on YouTube, Real AF TV, you will find us. Share with a friend. We are on iTunes and Spotify and iHeart and Amazon. We're all over. You got a friend that listens to podcasts? Help us out. Spread the word of Real AF TV. That would be great, because that listener number is how we stay independent and strong and kick ass, I might say. You can help us out even more if you subscribe on YouTube, or if you leave us a review. I think Spotify on the app. I know iTunes takes reviews. Help us out. Do that thing. Maybe Google takes reviews too. I can't remember anymore.
I don't think so.
Okay.
Yeah, if they do, I've never been like prompted to or really looked at it.
Okay.
So Google is the one I use the majority of the time.
Mm-hmm.
I have been trying to get like more into Spotify, but I don't quite like their interface as much. I like how organized Google is, how I can scroll through everything and see which stuff has new episodes and stuff for me.
Right. No, I agree.
And Spotify might have something that's decent too, but I haven't learned how to use theirs as good as I know how to use Google's.
Google's just intuitive.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Oh yeah. We're over there on Google too. So hey, check us out if you're on Google. That's a high praise for Google Podcasts.
Yo.
All right. So this episode, we are going to do windy conditions on the fishing part, and we are going to get into weird food in the random take.
Ooh.
Weird food we've eaten, weird food we want to eat, all this other stuff. I got some stuff rolling into it. But anyways, Tim, Let's talk about the windy conditions. This one's been a minute in the making because it has been one hell of a windy fishing season
It has
since
been.
open water fishing season here in Minnesota. I mean, dude.
Yeah. Even not, dude. I remember like trying to put the ice house down and just like every time going out there, just
Yeah.
being like, well, I remember last year I didn't have to use the anchors at all.
Okay.
And this year I'm like, well, if I don't put the anchors down, my house is gonna blow away. So
So you're saying like 2022 windy fucking season.
yeah, so far it's been crazy.
Also, I hope the podcast sounds a little bit better because I got a new windscreen.
Mm.
For the mic. Support us on Real AF TV's Patreon. That's realaf.tv/Patreon. So we can keep getting things like this. Yeah, because I was listening back to myself and I was like, man, my P's are hitting too hard. My P's and my T's are hitting too hard. And so I hope that part's not annoying and I hope it sounds better.
I never really noticed it, I guess.
Yeah.
But I don't know. Maybe do I say a lot of P's and T's?
No, it's not that I say it a lot. It's just that I catch it. So I just felt the need. So I got a new one. Plus my daughter's been figuring out the mic now and she just
Oh,
grabs it and drools on it. And I was like, well, all the more
yeah.
reason to get a new one and get an
Yep.
upgrade.
Yep. Now I need a new one.
So Tim, windy fishing conditions. I'd like to kick it off with a poem.
All right.
Wind from the east, fish bite the least. Wind from the west, the fish bite the best. Wind from the north, few sailors set forth. Wind from the south blows bait in their mouth.
Whoa.
Yeah, I found that and
Dude,
they were like, I don't know, I've heard this like a million different ways.
I have heard the west and the east thing a million
Okay.
times. I have never heard north and south. That was the first. That's why I was like, huh? You're still going? I thought it was over at west.
Yes. Yes. I found that on like the Boy Scout of America's one like website or something, I swear. I
Yeah.
didn't write it down because it basically said like I didn't write that. I've heard like a million different versions of this, and I was just like, okay, I'm gonna start that way and be like, okay, so 2022 has been windy. Yeah, we established that. It sucks. It's been rough. So let's do this topic. What the hell truth is there in any of what was just said?
Well, so I think a lot of it has to do with like weather patterns and stuff. I've never really thought of like the south and the north and stuff, but like a cold front, I feel like a lot of times comes from like a north wind. So it'll shut shit down on a cold front and stuff. But after a cold front is one of my favorite ways to fish. I like finesse fishing. I like slowing it down and just working like a weightless fluke and stuff. So I think it all depends on the person and how they fish. You know, sometimes if you have to slow down and you don't get a chance, like it does make them less active. You know, if there's no wind, no ripples or nothing, you know, depending on the fish you're talking about, on a no wind day, it can definitely make it harder to catch walleyes and stuff. So
Oh, okay.
depending on like your fish that you're trying for, it can definitely make it harder. But bass, I think it makes it harder too, but I think it's fun. I think it's fun fishing like that. But the east and the west, I think for the most part, I think a lot of times it's like a west southwest wind. And when it's
Okay.
coming from the east, it like sets up things on a different pattern. So I think a lot of times people are like used to fishing where the winds are coming from the west, and it'll kind of set up where the fish are because the windy side of the lake is the more productive side of the lake.
Yeah. Yep.
And when you switch it, all of a sudden their spots aren't as productive as they once were, and it moves stuff around. And you
Oh.
know, all of a sudden your patterns change.
Oh, so if you were to say like to kind of say relate back to this whatever proverb or whatever, I don't know what the fuck you want to call it. But if it's hot on the west side of the lake because the wind from the west, fish bite the best, right? Okay, so whatever. Wind from the west, fish bite the best. You're doing great. Wind from the east, fish bite the least. Like it's the opposite, because you were catching them on the west wind, and now it's shifted to an east wind, and you're still fishing the same way. You don't get shit.
Right. Yeah, you got to change it up. Yeah, if you keep fishing the same way, things are probably not going to be that good. So, yeah, I mean,
Yeah.
there's some truth to it, but it's also like it just rhymes. When I was younger,
Right. Mm-hmm.
I like took it to heart, where nobody told me about it. I just heard the rhyme.
Okay.
And I'd like wake up in the morning and look, and I'd be like, and the wind is blowing, and then that's the east. Oh no, you're gonna get stinkies from the east. And then you go to fish, and you'd still catch fish, and you'd be like, oh, I really didn't think we were gonna catch anything today. Or like, like one of those little kid moments.
Yeah.
Where you just sound like an idiot. Dad, can you believe that we caught fish today? The wind was from the east.
Right.
Oh, can't even. And then your dad's just like, it's just a fucking rhyme.
You're like, it doesn't mean the fish won't bite. It just means you have to fish it different.
Yeah.
But,
And my dad's not even that kind of fisherman. He's just like, because back in the day, it was just like bobber fishing, So honestly, on his days, like where if he's fishing the same spot that was wind blown, and now it's the other side, and he's just fishing with a bobber. When you bobber fish and slow things down, you excel most of the time in like no wind conditions. So things probably always went well for him, because he's always looking. He's that kind of guy not trying to fish the windy side of the lake. He's also the kind of guy that when the wind is blowing at like 7 miles an hour, he's like, oh, I know it's supposed to be 20-mile-an-hour winds today,
He just loves the glassy water so much that 7 mile an hour wind just sets him off.
Yeah, just mad. Or like the wind's like barely blowing at the dock, and he's just like coming straight at us. We can't get the boat off the dock even. You're like, you can. So
you can.
Yeah, you for sure can. I mean, we're gonna. I didn't come up here to not go out on the boat because there's a little bit of wind coming at the dock.
Right.
If there's whitecaps coming at the dock, whatever, you got a point. I'm not,
right.
It's not my boat to try to take off. And if we screw up and your boat hits the dock, I get you're not going to be happy about that. So fine. But this 7-mile-an-hour wind is going to be just fine.
We're going to be okay.
We're going to be all right. I promise.
So this week, the Bass Elites are fishing St. Lawrence.
Yeah.
And it has been fucking gnarly out there, dude.
With the winds and stuff?
Yeah. So I was like, oh my God, we have to talk about this during this. Like, it just so happens we put this on the dock a couple weeks ago, and it just so happens that the Elites are fishing it the week we're talking about fishing.
Fuck yeah, dude.
Dude, I think it was Chris. Is it Zeldane? I think it's Zeldane is how you say his name.
Okay.
I always screw it up because I want to say a hockey player's name, and that's just mixing up sports.
Oh,
so,
dude, I get it.
Yeah.
No,
so,
just
sorry,
word
Chris.
association. Totally get it. There's like, what if it's close to what you know? That's what's coming out.
Right. Exactly.
Yeah.
He had water in his boat driving back from practice.
I know, dude. That's the part that makes me
of water
most. Yeah, that's the part that makes me most nervous about getting a bass boat. Is like I see him out there trying to like drive kind of into the wind, and your trolling motor, your foot pedals like set into the floor.
Right.
And they're driving, and every wave is like coming up over, and they're like stepping back, trying not to get their feet wet and stuff. And I'm like, oh man, like a bass boat would be so sick, but I'm so uncomfortable with just water constantly coming over the front of my boat.
Yeah.
Dude,
that freaks me out.
Yeah, dude, it would give me such anxiety.
Big time.
You're out like Lake Erie. You're out on like, we're like in, 120 feet of water. That's not where they're fishing, but like we're driving over 120 feet of water, and water's coming over the front of the boat.
Right.
And, But it's okay. I got to drive to the other side. We're going to fish over there.
Right.
Just like, I don't know, man. It's okay.
Oh,
Yeah, it gives me anxieties. Like, I really would like a bass boat, but that just, ugh, I don't even like watching it.
yeah.
Being in the boat myself, I know that they float even when they take in water and stuff, but I've also
Right.
seen videos of guys like with the big motor going,
Mm-hmm.
trying to like plane out because there's way too much water in their boat and they feel like they're gonna sink, and the guy's just like
Oh
talking to the
my.
other dude like, we're fine. Like, you do not look fine. I'd be freaking the fuck out, man.
And when these guys are on the front of the boat, dude, they're like, it's like they're working out, dude. They are working their
Oh
muscles to
yeah.
stay balanced. They are up
Uh-huh.
and down with the boats, and they have to like the trolling motors are I saw this literally in my research because I have to look this stuff up because I don't know what's going on. Like the trolling motors are coming out of the water and it's sucking air. And I'm like, what?
Oh
That's
yeah,
what it
dude.
said. It said like in my research, it's like trolling motors are sucking air. And I'm like, oh yeah, I'm seeing that because these
Yeah.
these guys are going up so high, and then you see them drop down to the well, and it's like, holy shit!
Yeah.
Like,
You
what does
can
that
hear.
mean? What does the sucking air mean?
I think it basically just becomes like a fan at that point. It doesn't really suck air, but you can
Gotcha.
hear it. Like when I've done it before, like you have it and you
Mhm.
hit a wave and it's going, so you don't hear the trolling motor, and as soon as it comes out, you hear it kind of like spool up and then chop the water as it's coming in. So it's like you're hitting the waves, so it's like a and
Yeah. Yep.
it sounds crazy.
Because yeah, I bet it does. That fan blade going into the water. Holy
Yeah.
shit. Okay, I gotcha.
Yeah. Yeah. So it's, I think, that's what they're talking about, unless they have some sort of a, I don't know. I don't have a new age trolling motor. I'm pretty sure they still all have the same
Yeah.
blades. I
Yeah.
think it's just a
It's just a
figure
way
of
to put it.
speech, but
Yeah.
they're
Okay.
sucking air, bro. But yeah,
Right, right.
you know
I
what
I
else
read
is?
that there were, like, extenders and stuff like that, that you can get for your trolling motor for, like, 4 windy
Oh,
days. It's like, "What?"
well, you'd have to, yeah, windy days on like deep water like that. Cause you got to figure, like, if
Okay.
it's a 3 or 4 foot wave,
Right,
every time you're
right.
going to the peak and then coming back down, like when you're on the peak of the wave, the
Mhm.
next wave is dipped. So
Yeah. Yep.
that space from where your trolling motor is to where the tip of the boat is, you know,
3,
what,
4,
6
5
feet?
feet.
If
Oh.
it's a 3 foot tall wave, the
Oh,
bottom, maybe, I
right.
don't
I
know,
get what you're saying.
that math might be off, but
No, no, I think that's right. Typically,
yeah.
that's what a wave is that the up peak is, and I forget the sine wave terms, but it's the crest is the same as the well. The top of the crest is the same as the well on the next one.
Okay.
It's
Yeah.
some shit like that. So yeah, you'd be right. You're like
Yeah.
3 feet up, and the next thing down is 3 feet down. That'd be 6 feet in between you and the next bottom.
No. Mm.
Holy shit.
Yeah, and then
That's crazy to
that
think
makes
about.
sense that they have the extenders and stuff, but I've never really thought about it. But one thing I have thought about is how they have, a lot of them have a transducer like built into the trolling motor now.
Okay.
And every time that comes out of the water, you're losing your graph.
Oh,
It'll keep going back, but you'll just have like these dead spaces on your graph, because it kind of like scrolls. So you'll just have like bing, 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 bing. It's still
and you're
wet,
talking
so
about
maybe
on
it's,
a fish finder, right? Like,
yeah. So like a fish finder, the transducer has to have that water because it's basically like shooting sound waves down, and then the sound waves bounce off and comes back up, and that's what
mm,
makes your picture. Every single time that transducer's coming out of the water, the sound waves aren't traveling through the water because you're not in the water anymore, so you're
right,
losing it, and it's
right, right.
making it. And
So
at
you
the
just
very
get a big
least, even
black
if you're,
bar probably, right?
yeah, and even if you're not, it's shooting down to the bottom, so
Mm.
everything that you get is like this wave. Whoa, whoa, whoa. I don't know if
Oh,
the new age ones have something
to combat that
where
or
you can
something.
be like, yeah, because they know how fast you're traveling or whatever, that can kind of do the math and
Mm.
calculate it, like shift it every shoot, shoot,
Oh, I
to
gotcha, I
make it
gotcha.
level out. I don't know.
Right, but either way,
You
it makes
think
it
with the
harder to read,
calculating
like, as far as
power,
you know, like,
yeah, for
reading.
sure, for sure.
Damn, dude.
Does for sure. That was one of the things that I was gonna touch on, with some of the graphs are not gonna be working that well. I guess
Yeah.
we could just get into it since I'm already talking about it.
Yeah. 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 Of course.
But that's one thing,
Natural flow.
natural flow, where I had thought to myself, like, you gotta learn to walk before you can run. And there's some dudes out there now, not necessarily tournament fishermen. Tournament fishermen are tried and true for the most part. Like,
Sure.
they've been putting in work. So even though they're using these new electronics, like this, they didn't get here because they have the new electronics and that's it.
Right. Right. Oh yeah,
But
for sure.
if you have people that are just getting into it and they went straight to this forward imaging, or like, like the live,
Yep.
all the different stuff, they call that forward imaging now, because at first they used to be like, oh, it's just this or whatever, and then everybody came out with one, so now it's forward imaging.
Oh.
So forward imaging is basically what's giving you like these live views of the fish and stuff. When you're
Okay.
hitting those waves like that, you basically can't use that shit, because
Right. Okay.
you're moving all over the place. You're not getting an accurate
Yeah.
reading.
Yeah.
You're not seeing a fish like you are when it's not windy. You're just seeing something. You're like, I have no idea what I'm looking at. There's just something in front of me. So
It's not
it
the
could,
fish like in the demos that they show. It's not the fucking largemouth just swimming a little bit away and then
right.
hiding under that rock. It's way
Yeah.
fucked up.
Yep. So I was thinking in my head that, like, up until now, that's always been the case, is that you have to learn to walk before you can run.
Mhm.
Meaning, like, if you don't know the fundamentals, you're not going to go out there and be able to kill it every day. But that thing is
Right.
almost like a cheat code to be
Sure.
able to go out there and kill it,
Great way to put it.
But
Yeah.
then these guys that only know how to do that on that day aren't going to be
Mhm.
able to do anything else.
Right.
So you're going to be going out there and they're just going to be like, oh, I can run all day. And then you're just like, not in this shit. And you're like, okay, get your thing. And then I just speed walking past you. I've been doing this the whole time. I've never had what you have.
Right,
it's,
right.
it's time to
And so
fish
here
this
I am.
wind.
That speed walk, my feet, I never run. My feet never each one, always
Nope.
touching the ground.
I'm going. Some days I run, but it's not because of that cheat code. But yeah, man, it definitely messes with some of the electronics and stuff. So you
Sure, of
really
course
kind of
it does.
you
I would
gotta
never thought of that.
understand where you're at. Like, the electronics still come into play because your GPS is going to be putting you in a certain place, and
Mhm,
your speed,
mhm,
being able to see how fast you're going one way or another can definitely help depending on how you're fishing. If you're fishing for walleye
mhm,
and you're trolling and you have the wind to your back,
mhm,
giving you some extra speed,
mhm.
the police are coming. Better
Oh.
hurry this up. You heard, I figured out what I've been doing.
Quick, 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 quick.
But so yeah, like, if you're trying to troll, like pull some crankbaits or pull some sort of a rig and you got the wind to your back, like, what you normally troll at is not going to be the same. You might just be hauling ass. You might not be able to troll at all that day, because
Yeah.
depending on the wind speeds, like, you might be going way too fast and have no chance, depending on
Oh,
what you're fishing for.
because you can kind of you're saying like, "Oh, I'm used to setting walleye troll at this setting,
Yeah.
whatever,
Yep. Yep.
3. I'll just say 3 because I don't know what a trolling
Yeah.
motor.
No, that's
Yeah.
probably, yeah. Depending on what you're trying to pull, like, yeah, a 3 out of 10 is probably decent. And, if you're trying to pull a crankbait, you might be going balls out. But even like with a crankbait, you might be going way too fast,
Mm, mhm,
just because you might, depending on a windy day, if you're trying to pull something at like 2 miles an hour, 1.5 to 2 miles an hour or whatever,
mhm.
that wind might not let you do anything less than like 4.
Yeah, right.
So,
Because it'll like, it's gonna push you, right?
right, exactly.
Yeah.
There's been days where I've been moving 3 miles an hour with nothing, just drifting.
You can see that on the, uh, like, on your fish finder?
Yeah, the GPS, or the one
Oh,
thing that I
GPS.
forgot that one time, the pan, No, I'm having to do. I'm word association. I was talking about the live scopes or the forward facing. So now I'm thinking Panoptics,
Right.
and now I'm trying to say Panasonic, and I know that's not the right thing.
Because you have a phone in your hand.
Yeah, so I'm just like
So you know that's not right. Yeah, yeah, yeah.
for freaking
But you're
fellow
trying to
filler. Yeah,
you're talking
uh,
about that Maps app that you have on your phone? Is that what
yes,
you're saying? Yep.
yep. And why I'm still brain farting? I thought for sure Navionics.
Yep.
That's not Panasonic, but there's like all the same letters in there, so my
Right,
brain's
right.
just
It's
like,
very, very close if you just break down the sound. If you were to blur the sounds together, they'd be the same. So yeah,
yeah,
you got Navionics on your phone.
yep. And that uses your GPS through your phone, so it knows how fast you're going. It'll show you your
Oh.
speed.
Oh,
Yeah,
sick.
like my
Okay.
dad, his depth finder on his boat doesn't have a GPS unit.
Mhm,
So I
mhm,
always use the Navionics app for my GPS. So I have like my phone and his
mm.
graph, and it's basically like a 2-in-1
Yeah. And
when I
so
set
then
them
you've
up next
seen
to
on
each other.
windy days where you guys have just been sitting
Yeah,
and
in like my
it's
old
pushed you.
boats, I have my little boat. I have the GPS, but yeah, definitely see like how fast you're moving, and
Damn.
certain baits are
Right.
definitely you want to be in a certain zone,
Right.
so the
And
wind
it's
can
something so
definitely
that's
throw
really
you
something to
off.
think about, like,
Yeah,
your speed,
well,
your
right,
drift speed is something you need
yeah,
to be taken into consideration big time
boat
on a windy day.
boat control in general. Like
Mm.
the boat speed or where you're at and stuff,
Mhm.
and
Mhm.
um, just I mean, it's a thing that's been said over and over and over by us, but planning ahead is huge,
You're right.
and definitely planning ahead in the wind for so many different things.
Right.
Like even um so boat control, like say that there's a point
Yep.
or a ledge or something that you're trying to fish, whatever the structure may be, that they're going to be either at the top of the break, which is like, there's like a flat, and then it at the top of the break is, like 9 feet, and then it drops off.
Okay.
So the top of the break is like before it starts, like right where it starts to go down.
Yep.
Maybe the fish are set up on the top of that break because the current's pushing everything in there, right?
Right.
So the wind creates current, and the current is pushing in the plankton, and the
Yep.
plankton are getting ate by the minnows, and the minnows are getting ate by the bigger fish, and the
Yep.
bigger fish are getting ate by even bigger fish. So, so
Yeah, yeah.
a
I think
lot of
my note, because of course doing the research,
yeah,
I think it literally says, uh, "Yep," and it sets the food chain in motion.
yes,
Yeah,
for sure.
and the food chain goes nuts. That's literally my note.
Yeah, yeah. It's kind of like it can kind of set off like a feeding frenzy because
Oh,
everything's set
that's
up
a
in
good
like
way to put it, dude. That's like that hits when you say it set like the wind sets off a feeding frenzy. That hits.
mhm.
That's a really good way to put it.
Yeah, not every time, but the wind is definitely your friend. Like
Right.
100% of the time, the windy side of the lake is the more productive side of the lake.
Right. Yep.
Unless, I say 100% of the time. I'm sure there's an exception when it's like a hurricane or a tornado, but nobody's fishing in that shit, so that doesn't matter.
Right.
You know?
Well, it's 100% of 60% of the time it works every time,
Mhm. Exactly. Numbers, math, you get it. Uh, so, um, yeah, what were we talking about before?
Well, we were
Oh,
talking about
the
the
setting off the
the
food chain.
the yeah, the wind and how, like, the windy side because when the wind blows, there's less sun penetration, leads to more plankton, leads to plankton being pushed across the lake, and wherever the
Right.
wind is pushing the plankton, it sets off the food chain. Like, that's just
Yeah.
simple. That's just how it works.
Yeah, yeah. And the current a lot of times will set up even the way the fish are facing. For the most
Oh,
part,
shit.
when the
Really?
current's pushing everything this way or whatever, the
Mhm.
fish don't hightail it and swim with the current. They face the current because they're made to go that way. Like, so they're just kind of sitting facing
Wind
the
from the
current,
south
like
blows
waiting
bait
for
in their
stuff.
mouth.
Yeah, that's right. Blowing right. They're just waiting, open mouth, just waiting. They don't even have to do any work.
Crazy.
But
They just sit there. All even
there
predator fish, they just sitting there
there
waiting,
yeah,
obviously,
there are a
what to
lot
do.
of there are a lot of
That's incredible.
times there are a lot of times moving around and stuff, but for the most part, like when they're
Mhm,
sitting there, they're like depending on what kind of fish you're talking about. Like a muskie can
mhm,
kind of wait off of the current break, just waiting. If there's like a some wind that's kind of pushing over this hump, he might be on the front side waiting like in the weeds. He might be like slightly off to the back. There have been times where so Lake Shamana has a island in it, and the island has two very defined points on both sides,
mhm,
and they drop off pretty fast on both
mm,
sides of these
okay,
points, like
yeah,
on either side of the cat or on either side of the island. And the wind one day was coming directly across, like pushing across this point,
mhm,
and I had my muskie rod out, and I was looking at this, and I'm like, muskies are like the biggest, baddest creature in the water.
right,
He's going to set up in the most optimal spot. Nobody's going to tell him no. He's not worried about anybody else eating him. He's there
right,
waiting for something else to
yeah,
come along so he
yeah.
can eat it.
Tiger muskie's a name and a metaphor.
Right, right, right. So I'm sitting there and I'm like, if there's a fish here, he's right there. And if I pull it across there, he's at least going to get a chance to look at it.
Mhm,
And the exact cast where I thought he would be, I pull it across, and he hits the inline spinner, like the big Meps like muskie killer. I can't remember which one I was using.
mm.
They call him uh uh bucktail. I don't know.
Oh,
I couldn't think of that, but like a bucktail spinner is what they call it because they literally use buck like deer hair. The
oh.
deer hair like flows different in the water. There's a couple of different, like the bucktail has the deer hair. There's ones that use tinsel. There's another one that uses marabou feathers, which is some sort of a bird. I don't know, but
Okay, yeah,
they like
wow.
flow different in the water or whatever. But
Mhm,
yeah, casted it like just was like this is where he'll be setting up, and he'll be facing this way because of the wind and everything. And I took that cast, and sure enough, like the fish was right where I thought he would be, and it was all
mm,
because of the wind. Like it had
mhm.
him set up in the exact spot, and that's
Nice, nice.
like when you learn how the wind is pushing stuff and moving stuff,
Yeah,
you can make those like educated guesses.
right,
He might not have been there 100% of the time, but when I
right.
said if there's one here, that's where he's going to be, that's exactly where he was.
Yeah,
So,
and just
and it feels
knowing
so good
because
when you're right about it.
oh, I bet it did. I bet that felt fucking awesome,
Yeah,
and it
especially when
just
you're telling other people if there's a fish here, it's going to be right here. Zoom. I told you. I told you.
I fucking told you. And that just came from the experience of what you said of like read the wind. Okay, so the wind is blowing the bait fish, we'll just say for ease of it's blowing
Yeah.
the bait fish this way. So if that's where the bait fish are getting blown because they can't help it, then I bet you there's a predator fish right there and then wham.
Yep. Yep.
Fucking awesome,
And
dude.
it just makes them more active in general. You can get closer to fish without spooking them because
Yep.
when the water's clear, they can see you too. There was a
Yes.
diagram I saw once upon a time where it kind of shows you what they can see based off
Okay.
of where they are from. There's a certain angle where you can't see through the water anymore. They
Okay.
don't have polarized lenses. So when they're looking at a certain angle, the top of the water from their view looking up becomes like glass as well.
Right.
So when
Yep.
they're looking, they can't see you at a certain distance, but
Mhm.
the calmer the water, the farther that distance is.
Yeah. Yep.
So when there's all these wind and the ripples and stuff, and they can't really see. I mean, they might see you on the surface, but they're not really paying attention to it.
It just the wind like causing those ripples in the surface is causing their vision to be obscured. Like that
Yeah, yeah,
like it's just obstruction of vision, right? Because it's all choppy and shit.
yeah.
And if it's clear, you could see through it. I mean,
It's even obstruction of light.
oh
The
right,
the
yes.
the way
That's a better
the
way.
way yeah, the way the water, well, what you said is right, but also like of light. It's
Right.
darker. in the same waters to them
Right.
when
Right.
the wind is blowing, because it's
Right.
cutting it up. It's not letting the
It's just not
light
letting the
rays penetrate.
water it's not letting the water is like reflecting and refracting and reflecting, and it's doing it way more in way different ways than a flat pane of glass, so to
Yeah.
say.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
Yeah, and when they can't see you, and when the light's a little bit, like, lower, like, the low light conditions are when they're the most active. If it's low light all day because the wind is breaking them up, then they're active a lot of the part of the day, and if they can't see you, you're not spooking them, so you can get
Right.
closer to the fish. Like,
Right.
wind can definitely be a helper for you,
Right.
but it does bring challenges.
Sure. Of
You know,
course.
there's a lot of baits that are gonna be a lot harder to use.
Oh.
Um, so, like, if you're fishing jigs and stuff, jigs for
Okay.
walleyes, jigs for bass, whatever they are, you just gotta go heavier. You don't have a choice. If you're
Oh.
using stuff too light, if you're using, like, a 16th ounce jig,
Mhm.
it's never hitting the bottom. On a super windy day, it's just not gonna get
Oh,
down there.
you're talking about bouncing it off the bottom, like getting it
Yeah.
down
Yep,
deep.
yep.
It's not
And
gonna make it.
right, and like an 1/8 inch jig, probably not either, but or 1/8 inch. If you're using a tiny
Ounce.
little thing, but an 1/8 ounce, like, just know that whatever you're trying to do, like, you
Mhm.
gotta go heavier. If you normally are fishing, if you like to use like an 1/8 ounce jig in like 15 feet of water, on that
Yeah.
day there's like 15-mile-an-hour wind, you gotta go up to like a 1/4 ounce at least,
Yeah. 'Cause it'll
maybe
never make it through
3/8.
that top layer of choppy ass water. Like, it's just
Well,
it won't even make it through right? The extra
Well,
current?
it'll make it through, but with the wind and the current and everything, it just makes it harder to do everything. You can't really feel the jig, you can't really feel the bottom, you don't really know where you're at.
Oh,
Like,
I
you gotta
gotcha.
have it because you're moving and it's moving and everything, like, with the waves, it just makes so
It's
much more movement
messing
that
with
you
your
have to.
line, your
Yeah,
feel, like,
exactly.
there's the feel is not there. Okay,
Mhm.
okay.
Right. Yeah, so you gotta go
Mm,
heavier so you can feel everything. And it's
right,
the same
right.
with, like, bass jigs. Whatever you like to use, if it works, you gotta go heavier. You just really don't have a choice. I know, like, real extreme currents, obviously, like, just a windy lake isn't the same as like a river, but some of the real strong rivers, those guys are using like all the way up to like a full ounce, maybe like an ounce and a half in some of those real strong current
Mm.
rivers.
Mhm.
I've never tried
Just
fishing with anything like that, but like,
but it's just
I've
a
seen the
feel,
pros do it. Yeah.
like, because you can't
Right.
otherwise
That
you got
current.
nothing, right?
Yeah.
You're just sitting there fighting the waves
Mm-hmm.
basically, huh?
Yep. Yep.
Hmm,
And
interesting.
and the way you are fishing, like, even in a river, this is just a good tip for a river, but
Mm,
like,
mhm.
when you're fishing current in a lake, depending on your depth, the current's not always that big of a deal in certain spots. Like,
Mm.
I shouldn't say in certain spots, in certain depths.
Oh, okay.
If the wind's really blowing and you're fishing like 20 feet down, the
Mhm.
water's not moving that much 20 feet down.
Right, right. It's that
It's
surface
definitely
level.
not moving the same as the surface. Yeah.
Right,
So
right.
you need that weight to get down there and stuff, but it's not quite the same super deep. But depending on like the where you're fishing in the water column, like wherever you think the fish are,
Mhm.
pulling the bait with the current is what you want to be doing most of the time. Or maybe like sideways with the current, but pulling the bait against the current, way less fish almost every time, especially in a
Really?
river. Yeah, it's just like not
So if you're
natural.
pulling
I
so
don't know.
basically if you're fishing upriver and casting downriver,
Yeah.
that ain't really probably gonna work out for you.
Right. Yeah, you got to cast upriver and pull it downriver. So, like,
With the current?
pull it with the current.
Yeah.
Yeah. You'll catch like 10 times the amount of fish.
Huh.
If it's a really light current, it might not be that big of a difference, but if the current's
Sure.
moving pretty decent, you can
Mhm.
feel it in your bait. If you're using like an inline
Oh.
spinner or like a crankbait, if you
Yeah.
cast it with the current
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
and then you bring it back in, you can feel your bait working normal.
Oh, yeah,
But
for
if you
sure.
cast it in like with the current and then pull it back against the current,
Yeah.
that crankbait is going overtime and your bait's just not doing what it's supposed to. I've had
It won't
stuff.
move right? Yeah, that's what,
Yeah,
like,
I've had stuff
it's
where
it's
because of
moving erratically where it's because it's manufactured to move a certain way, or
yeah,
it's engineered to move a certain way at a certain speed, and all of a sudden you're double or tripling that speed.
exactly. Yeah, because of the
It's gonna be all
water
fucked
speed.
up.
Yeah, for sure. Because I've seen it before, like where I've had a crankbait where you cast it out and that's just supposed to wiggle. Some of them will kind of like track back and forth a little bit and be more erratic or whatever. But I've had it like I've tried pulling it against the current before and it's like doing circles and loop de loops and shit. And you're just like, there's no
Oh,
fish out there barrel rolling, like
right,
the
right. And if you
smallmouth
were
is just
fishing
like,
high on a windy day, like if you're fishing shallow on a windy day, that's
yeah,
probably not gonna it's probably gonna do that shit too.
yeah,
If you're fishing the waves wrong with a shallow diving bait, I would
right.
assume.
Yeah. And I don't think the fish are interested in eating something that swims like that because it's so unnatural. But even if they are
Mhm.
trying to chase it, it's like some Top Gun maneuver where the smallmouth's coming at it, and all of a sudden it's just like shoot, like barrel rolling over it. It's like oh shit,
What
that
the
fish
fuck
had some
was that?
that fish had some moves, bro. I tried to eat him. He juked me
So,
hard.
I I wanna jump back to the boat thing quick if we can, because it's so windy. You have a small boat. It's hard to get out in it because the sort of the things we talked about, like dipping, water
Yeah,
coming over and shit like that. That that's scary. So different boats, different conditions, right?
for sure. Yeah, for
um,
sure.
but
Yeah, you got a 21-foot Ranger. You're not scared of most.
right,
You got a big old boat. There's not much you're gonna be nervous about.
yeah. And so you have to learn how to control that, like even kayaking, right? Like
Yeah, yeah, for
you got to
sure.
learn
You
how to
gotta.
control it. Now,
Mhm.
does a GPS driven trolling motor know how to control that? Do you have any
Yep.
experience or insight on that?
So I don't have any experience or insight on that. Well, I have a little bit of insight. I don't have any experience. I've
Okay.
never used one of those before, but the GPS is smart enough that it'll get pushed off of its spot,
Mm-hmm.
but
Mm-hmm.
it's smart enough to know where it's been pushed to and it will correct. So it might not be perfect, but you're not perfect behind it either. The only
Mm-hmm.
advantage that a person has over the GPS is that the GPS doesn't know anything happened until after it happened, where we can
Mm.
preemptively see like a big wave coming and be like, oh shit, and like kind of turn into it and kind of like
Right,
cut
right,
it
right.
off and help
Yeah.
our, the, the, tra- to,
Point the
trajectory. I can't say that word.
shit. I can't now either.
I know, dude, it's hard when you think about it. Like when you just say it in conversation, it's fine, but then you're on a
Right.
podcast, you're trying to say it, and you're just like, the way I'm going, the way the boat's going. I'm just gonna
That
give up on that
way.
word. You know
But
how
yeah,
the
I get what
boats
you're
try and
saying.
go
Like
that way?
you can point the nose into the next wave, right? Like you can take the head on instead of taking a broadside or something like that. Like you can see it from 10 feet away and have enough time to correct your boat and take it
Yes. Yeah.
nose on
Exactly.
instead of taking it broadside, or
Yep.
however you want to look at
Yeah.
that.
Yeah. So I don't have a lot of. I shouldn't say a lot. I don't have any experience using like the GPS driven stuff, but I have heard other people talking about it and how nice it is to have like the spot lock and stuff, because the spot lock,
Hmm.
you could basically hit that and it'll keep you in an area and it might let you drift like 10 feet to the left or the right or whatever, but it's going to
Hmm.
keep you in the same general location.
Hmm.
Like if you have to go net a fish or whatever for a buddy, or
Hmm.
you have to retie something, it's at least going to keep you like in the same general area.
Hmm.
Where me, if something bites me off, I'm literally driving like 100 feet into the wind
Mm.
and then like putting on doing my best to keep it aimed that way,
Gotcha.
knowing that by the time I retie and it
Hmm.
pushes me back that 100 feet, I'll be close to where I was,
To where you were. Sure.
where it definitely would help. The spot lock sounds awesome. On a windy day, it's got to be awesome. Because I've talked about like the wind socks before.
Yeah.
The wind
That was
socks are
actually
like that.
something else I had on here.
Yeah, the wind socks are like that old school kind of way of controlling your drift and stopping you from moving too fast. But the new school, if you got that spot lock, you don't really have to mess around with that because it can slow down your drift,
Mm-hmm.
but that might almost mess with the spot lock. This, it might not understand.
Oh,
I don't
right.
know.
That the boat
I don't
has
know for
more
sure.
drag than. But
Yeah.
that's a drift. So the drift sock
Plus,
is something you drop in the water again, right?
yeah. So the drift sock is something you put. It kind of looks like an oversized one of those like wind socks that they have at the airports, so you
Oh
know
yeah,
which way
yeah.
the wind's going.
Yep.
But they don't have them blaze orange; they're like blue,
Right.
But
Because you drop them in the water.
yeah, yep,
Yeah.
you drop them in the water, and it just slows down your drift. It's like a big parachute, and it basically just creates enough drag that it slows everything from moving too fast on a windy day.
Sure.
But that creates complications and stuff too. So ideally, I think a lot of people have gone away from that stuff because they have new technology like the spot lock and stuff.
Mm.
But
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
as far as cost effectiveness goes, if that's what you're trying to do, that windsock is definitely cheaper than a trolling motor with
With a
the
GPS
spot
attached.
lock GPS setup. So,
Right. Right. Right.
um, but yeah, dude, it sounds really cool. Having that spot lock would be awesome.
Yeah.
Being on the GPS, being like, oh, stay in like the 10-foot contour and stuff, I think it probably gets thrown off the mark. But for the most part, you're still close to where you are, you know,
Mm-hmm.
and
Mm-hmm.
I think you're probably not trying to move down the bank at a consistent clip most of the time, anyways.
Mm-hmm.
And you're kind of moving a little bit and making certain casts and stuff because
Mm-hmm.
casting also becomes difficult in the wind, especially when you're using
Oh.
bait casters.
Oh, really?
Well, because the bait casters can backlash
Right.
if the bait doesn't keep going because it's just like a free spooling deal.
Okay.
And if your bait's not heavy enough and you throw it into the wind and the wind catches it, you'll backlash because
Right.
now the bait's not flying like it's supposed to. The bait stops,
Right.
your spool keeps going because you don't catch it. Because
Right.
if people out there don't know, when you have a bait caster and you throw it, you have to put your thumb on the spool to stop the line from going out before the bait hits the water. Like once it hits the water, if you stop it right then, you're fine. But if you keep your thumb off it, when the bait hits the water, that spool keeps running and it'll create like a rat's
This
nest
this is
and all
because the
the
speed changes. It hits the water and it slows down from 10 miles an hour to 3 miles an hour,
yeah,
and the
yep,
spool's still doing 10 miles an hour.
exactly, yep,
Yeah, okay.
yeah. And then that line just spools off of it, shoop, and creates a rat nest. So it gets all tangled up and stuff. And like, especially if you're using like spoons and stuff that catch the wind good, you go to
Mm,
huck one of those into the wind and just you might rat's nest the moment you let go of that thing.
whew, that's a good
So
tip.
yeah, I mean, a good tip is like trying to use heavier baits, whatever you can get away with in
Mm,
general. Like even
right.
heavier. If you have crankbaits that run the same depth and one weighs more than the other, probably try going with that heavier bait because that'll go through the wind better. You know,
Mm,
same thing with like a spinner bait. Probably don't do anything less than a half ounce. Maybe go bigger than that because
mm,
I know I was talking about being like, oh, ounce is a lot. That's for like just a straight jig. Like if you had like a 1 ounce spinner bait,
mhm,
that's a pretty heavy spinner bait, but spinner baits have blades on it and a lot of stuff that can catch the wind. So having
mm,
heavier, you could go with like a 1 ounce spinner bait, but I'd say like nothing less than a half ounce for sure. Half
right.
ounce, 3/8 ounce are pretty common spinner bait sizes. Ounce gets pretty big. So I guess it depends on where you're at. Using a
Sure.
giant spinner bait might not be the best thing in Minnesota unless you're trying to catch like muskies or
Well, that's actually what I was gonna say. So, like, you're saying fish heavier, but doesn't fish heavier mean fish bigger baits? And then, like, how does that work out? Because sometimes if
yeah.
you're going out in whatever walleye chop means, and maybe you can answer that in this too, but like if you're
Oh
going
yeah.
out for eater size walleyes and you're trying, and you go out during the walleye chop, and I say that in quotes, it's like, well, how does that work then? Because if you're throwing too big, how are you gonna get eaters? Like,
Oh well, so if you're throwing too big, so like with walleyes and stuff, when you're throwing heavy jigs, you can still use the same size soft plastics and stuff.
no.
So that's kind of like a trick where you can use a
Oh,
heavier bait, but the bait's not really bigger when you're talking walleyes and stuff.
okay. Okay.
So some of that stuff, depending on what it is, does get bigger. Crankbaits and stuff when you get 1 ounces
Mm-hmm.
and spinner baits get bigger and stuff. But those you're talking bass most of the time.
Okay.
You're not catching walleyes on the spinner bait for the most part. It happens, but that's not what they're made for.
Right. Right. Right.
And the same thing with like crankbaits and stuff. But on those days when the fish are more aggressive, sometimes they'll hit those bigger baits anyways. So you can get away with it.
Because it's
Um,
windy. Yep. Because that's
yeah,
actually what I found out is like when it's windy, it oxygenates the water, and then there's more oxygen, and the fish get all fucking fired up. So
yeah, they're just
that's
oh
exactly
yeah,
what
bro.
you're pointing out. You're saying like
Yeah,
they get fucking turbo mode.
right. Yeah, you can definitely have like a way more productive. I've heard plenty of pros like with walleye and bass talking about how they go out and fish a spot of the lake where like the wind's hitting and
Mm-hmm.
they're just killing them like fish after fish after fish all day. Fish the same spot the next day when it's calm and they don't get dick. Like there's not even a fish there. The
There's
water's
even
clear.
fish
They
there.
can see. Yeah, the water's clear. They can see down like the exact same spot they were fishing yesterday doesn't even have a
Okay.
fish in it. They can't see anything.
Sure.
It might have
Sure.
a fish in it that are hiding in the weeds or whatever, but that's what they're doing now. You got to slow it down and try to find them. But
Yeah.
yeah,
So
man, when you're
what do you mean
throwing
with
that big
the
stuff, I was
yeah?
just gonna say, like, be
Yep.
prepared.
That's exactly okay.
When you're throwing that big stuff, be ready. Don't don't tie on your favorite spinnerbait thinking that that's all it's gonna be. Like if you're okay with losing it because a muskie comes and grabs it, cool.
Mm,
But maybe throw on a leader, at least like a leader material. You can get like clear fluorocarbon leader material
okay.
and tie that on where it's
Mm-hmm.
more abrasion resistant and it still keeps it kind of clear, and you
Right.
can get heavier stuff and just put a couple of feet so it gives you a better odds of not losing it. But you might have, if you're fishing a lake with muskies, you might have a muskie come and grab that stuff. If anybody out there knows what a Rapala DT10 is, crankbait that's like 2.5 inches long, I've had muskies bite that thing.
Mm.
It's just like it happens sometimes. And that one,
Sure.
I have that lure back. It's got a lot of stories to tell, a lot of teeth marks. But that one, I cast it out and I like had a fish and I was like, this feels like a good fish. And it didn't even know that it bit the bait. By the time I got it up to the water, I saw it was a muskie and it like looked right at me. And once it realized that he was hooked, he took off swimming. Once he seen me, like just took off fast.
Oh,
But I didn't
weird.
even know what to do after that. I freaked out because the bait was gone. There was just line going into his mouth. And I'm like, oh, like if I
Oh shit.
if I lift this up, and then eventually like I got him to the surface after like letting him run for a while, and he just opened up his mouth and the bait just came out. I didn't even think I had him hooked. He just didn't want to give up the fish.
Just didn't want to give up what he ate.
Yeah, he's just
Whoa,
like,
what
oh,
the
I
fuck,
got it.
dude?
Yeah, he's like, oh, I caught it. I'm not giving it up. And then
That's
like right
so
before I
weird.
landed him, he just gave it back. Yeah.
Oh my god, that's
So
so
just be
weird.
prepared that it might happen, because everything's more aggressive. You might get a muskie trying to bite it, or a
Mm-hmm. Right.
piker in almost every lake in
So
Minnesota.
throwing the
So
bigger, like throwing a bigger weight. Well, you even said though, if you throw a bigger weight for the walleyes, like it might not get in the way. Like how
yeah,
does?
because you can go with a heavier jig head. If you go
Mhm.
up to like a 3/8 ounce jig head, it's still the same hook shank for the most part. It's just like the ball of the head is bigger,
Oh,
so you can still put the same soft plastic on, and you'll
right.
be kind of working it faster.
Yeah.
It's going to have a faster fall rate. There's nothing you can do about that, but
Right.
that's what you got to do if you want to feel it. If you're out
Gotcha.
there casting around 1/8 ounce in heavy winds, you just can't feel it. You might
Is
catch a
that?
fish, but it's all luck.
Oh, sure, of course. Yeah. So is a fluke what you're talking about? Like is a fluke bait kind of the soft plastic you're talking about?
Oh yeah, like a fluke is like it looks like a minnow and it has a straight tail. It's not like a
Yeah.
swim bait. You
Yeah.
you give it all the action.
So I heard last year actually watching the Bass Elite, they were like, "Whoa, fluke fishing in this wind, that's pretty crazy." And I was like, "I have no fucking clue what they're saying." And I
If
wanted to bring that up now to be like, "Wait, is that what you're talking about now with the walleyes or
well, so if you're using a fluke and you're putting it on a jig head, you can pretty much fish that anywhere. But I'm guessing if they were saying that it was crazy that they were doing it weightless, because a lot of people will fish a weightless fluke. That's my favorite thing to fish. I love fishing a
Oh,
weightless fluke.
okay.
So you can get flukes, there's super flukes and stuff. So they range from like 4 to like, I don't know, I think some of the big ones are probably like 8-9 inches long.
Jeez.
And then you put a hook in it, and all you do is just like pop it a couple of times, and then you let it die. And it's like a dying minnow. It'll kind of
Mm.
like swim and then fall. And then a lot of times they'll hit it on the fall.
Mm-hmm.
If you don't have any weight and you're trying to do that in like super windy conditions, that would be hard, real hard,
Right.
especially if the wind's blowing it in. But depending on where
Sure.
you're fishing, if
Mhm.
your graphs, if you can read your graphs or you have side imaging and you know that you can see like a bait ball and you
Mhm.
figure that there's fish there and it's getting
Oh,
blown and you're fishing like a dying minnow or whatever,
sure.
you could get away with it. It's just going to be hard.
It's gonna be hard to
So
get the
that's
damn
probably why
fluke
they're
out
just like,
into the bait
yeah. And
into the bait ball or whatever.
right. And for the most part, you're fishing that on like a spinning rig because you can cast the lighter baits a lot easier with a spinning reel.
Oh, okay.
So they're probably hucking it with that thing because
Okay.
I would do that. That's how I would fish it.
Sure.
But yeah, that would be kind of hard to do. Everybody says, like basically like those baits are out when it's windy. You can't do that.
Right. Just don't do that.
And then the pros are just like, watch me.
I'm gonna throw the fuck out of this thing. I couldn't
Yeah.
imagine doing that with all of the casts that they have to do in a day. Like, oh my god,
Yeah.
your whole back is gonna be sore by the end of the damn day.
Oh, dude, yeah, just the waves in general. I know I've been out there when it's super windy and the waves are like moving you around. You come in, you're just
Mm-hmm.
like, oh, my back is so tense because you just been like constantly like working these muscles in a weird way.
Right. That's what I
Or you
said.
get
Like
that,
that's why I started out with like working out. Like you watch these
yeah.
guys on out there on their boats in the front working the fucking trolling motor and like riding the wave, like literally riding the waves with the
Oh yeah,
boat.
dude.
Like
They're like a
holy
bull
fuck, dude.
or like riding a horse. You're kind of trying to
Yeah,
move
try
with it.
not to get bucked off.
Dude, it gets it's so constant over and over and over that a lot of times on a really windy day, it's like a phantom wave syndrome where you get
Oh,
back to
sure.
the dock, you get off, you're
Yep.
on flat land, but you still feel like you're moving.
Right.
You're just
Yes.
like, oh, I just need to go sit down.
That is crazy. Another thing,
Yeah.
if it's a really windy day, get yourself some of those motion sickness pills.
Oh yeah, for sure.
If you can ride that out, if you can get out
If
there on
you
a day
have
that
trouble
windy and
with,
you can fish
yeah,
it,
if you
hey.
have trouble with motion, definitely. The smaller waves seem to not fuck with people so much, but
Mhm.
like it depends on where you're at. Sometimes the waves are like tighter, even when it's like really, if the body of water is smaller, you'll still get big waves, but they're like closer together.
Oh,
So that
sure.
constantly like tight wiggling is a little bit better. Like the Great Lakes, it's like these big swooping motions, and that
Right.
seems to be what gets people sick. Like that's what the ocean has
Right.
in
Yeah.
extremes.
Right. Yep. That's what's
So
happening on the St. Lawrence for the elites because it's a feed. It's a feed in the
yeah.
ocean. It feeds to the ocean, I should say. When the walleye chop thing, what does that mean? That I have to
Walleye,
ask that before we wrap this up.
yeah. Walleye chop is just like the wind itself is creating like the little waves on the surface.
Oh,
So a walleye chop is like where you have the little like a decent, you know,
like
like not a
the
hardcore wind, but like
mhm.
wind
To break up the
enough
water
to,
or to break up the
yeah.
sunlight, basically,
Yep,
right? To
yep.
make the
So
water darker, I guess.
yeah, walleye chop is like ideal because it's like enough wind to get things moving, but not enough that it makes things hard to fish.
Oh,
So that's
okay.
the walleye chop is like the perfect amount of wind is basically what it's referring
That's
to.
what it means.
Yeah, the
It's the
walleye,
amount of wind that you want to break the surface so that your
yes,
line is disguised and your bait has a little bit more camouflage on it.
exactly. Yep.
Okay.
Yeah,
Okay.
so it's used to describe the wind, like or
Mhm.
that's basically what it is talking about, but the walleye chop itself, what they're talking about is the waves. is
Gotcha. You're right.
that's the
Right.
chop. Like, oh, there's some nice chop out here, or like when you're
Gotcha.
looking at the waves, oh, it's kind of choppy out here, it's not glass, it's choppy.
Right. Okay.
Yeah. So,
Yeah.
um, I was gonna say two things. One,
Yep.
definitely the wind's your friends. I talked about other muskies and stuff, just a little bit ago, but my first muskie ever came off the dock on a crazy windy day where I didn't
Oh.
think we'd catch shit, and it was just randomly. I remember it like it was yesterday, dude. I will
Bet you
never
do.
forget it. I had an old school 16-foot Lund boat, and it
Oh
had
yeah.
rained
The old
heavy like that
the
week.
old red Lund with the
Yeah,
green
yeah,
interior.
yep. And it had rained heavy that week, and my boat regularly did not have it sat in the water, but it didn't have like a boat lift or anything. We would just tie it to everything,
Mm.
and it stayed in place, but it would like fill up with water, and then the waves would start coming over it and stuff. So regularly we'd come up, and it's like the boat's just underwater. So like, oh, cool, neat. So
All right.
the boat's like underneath the water. The water is all stirred up, like you can't see through it at all, and that's a super clear water
A
lake.
clear lake that just went mucky.
Yeah, but I know that normally there's like muskies, or there used to be. Things have changed, but there used to be like a couple of muskies that would always be underneath that dock, just kind of
Hmm.
waiting there. And I don't know what changed, but the muskies don't sit there anymore. So like,
Mm-hmm.
just there's a lesson for everybody. Like, things
Right.
change in lakes. Like, they
Right.
won't always be the same. When we started
Right.
going up there was muskies always underneath that dock, and now there's not. I haven't seen a muskie off the dock in a long time.
Sure.
But that time I cast it out, it was a Rapala Super Shad Rap. It was the red on the head, white in the back.
Yeah.
Casted it out, pulled that thing in like twice, and that's a floating bait. So it kind of like went down, down, and then floated to the surface and sat there. And I saw the muskie slowly come out. And I'm like, oh shit.
Oh,
And then I
shit.
kind of froze.
Even
I'm
in the
like, I
mucky
don't know.
water, you could still see it.
Well, because he came so close to the surface.
Mm.
I couldn't see him if he would have been down, but he came up so close to the surface, and I kind of froze. I was like, I don't know what to do about this. And then he slowly came up like a dog trying to take a treat. When you tell him gentle, it's just like, won't, and just grabbed onto it super gently.
What the fuck?
And I remember audibly just going, he ate it. And then setting the hook, and then fighting, like it ran underneath the dock, and I'm trying to like get it under,
God.
like stop it from like wrapping around everything, but it did. And luckily I had, like I had been trying for muskies, so I had the line and everything, but I was never successful.
Right.
And ended up landing that fish, and it was like 42 inches, but
hell yeah.
I never caught a fish like that before, and it was just like mind-boggling. And even though I had tried many, many times and saw these fish off the dock over and over and over, they were never interested in a bait until the water got stirred up and the wind was blowing directly at the dock. And then it just turned that fish on to eat it, even though I wasn't doing much with the bait. The fish was just like, well, I'll eat it. It just kind of swam up and just like, I'll give it a shot.
Cool. Just sitting there.
Speaking of weird food, he's just like, this red and white thing is weird. I'll try it. Yeah. But
well, yeah, before we transition into the weird food, did you have anything else you wanted to let the people know?
I got one more thing, and I kind of just jotted down a note. I even forgot what I was trying not to forget.
Yeah, that'll happen.
Safety.
That's why you take notes.
Safety, guys.
Oh,
don't forget, when it's windy, shit can get hectic.
Yes, very good point.
Yeah, I'm a super strong swimmer. I'm just super strong. Just pause there. I'm super strong. And then just be like, yeah, one more thing I don't want anybody to forget. Safety first. I'm super strong. Just no. But I'm a super strong swimmer. I always wear a life jacket when it's like crazy windy when we're driving. When you're fishing, like the boat's not moving that fast. If you fall out, it's not really going to take off on you, depending on what you're doing or whatever.
Right.
But when you're driving, you don't know what's going to happen with those waves.
Right.
The way to hit the waves is at an angle. Like, it depends on what kind of water, again, you're dealing with. If it's like a smaller body of water, and even if the waves are big, if they're close together when you're going fast, it just kind of, you can go pop, 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 right over the top of them.
Yep.
If your boat's long enough, like
right. You can cut
if
through
you're
them kind of.
bridging that gap and you're just
Right.
on
There
the
you go.
tops of the waves,
Yep.
you're fine. But if
Yep.
it's a real big one and it's going up and down, you want to go at an angle. Don't go straight at them, because when you're going straight at them, you're hitting that one, you're coming up, and then you're like nose diving into the next one. That's a problem. On like bass boats, if you're going too fast and you're hitting those waves, if you catch one and get a little bit like the nose comes up high, that shit can catch the wind. And so you go on YouTube, you can find videos of this stuff. That'll catch the wind, and that thing will just take off into the sky.
What?
And then you and your, like a racing boat, just
holy shit.
If you get the nose up too high and you're going too fast with the wind blowing underneath it, if the gust hits you, like,
I suppose.
Because
you got to think what you're doing 50 and the gust is doing 30.
Yeah. And then you catch underneath that thing, you just have this
kite,
giant, you have this giant kite, takes off like one of those tubes pulling behind the boat, and it gets that airborne.
right.
But there's that. The life jacket, if you go overboard, you never know. If you end up going overboard because you hit a wave wrong or whatever, most of the time you're probably going to smack something on the way out.
Right.
You might screw up your leg, your arm. Like, you're not going to be wanting to tread water. Don't be tough about it.
Or even
Don't
hit your head.
I could swim.
Be fucking disoriented for a little while.
Exactly. If you hit your head, you might not even be able to swim.
Right.
You get knocked out. Those life jackets are designed to like roll you over so you float face up.
Right.
And
good point, dude. Such a good point.
Big points. And the other one is always wear that lanyard. If you have a motorized boat, make sure that thing is hooked up to your life jacket, because if you fall off or you go flying, the boat doesn't stop unless you have that kill switch pulled. And I just saw
videos of that shit.
Dude, I just saw a clip with the dumbest kids in the world where one of them, they're on like a wakeboard boat, and one of them's pulling a wakeboarder, and the other one has like the GoPro set up, and he's like, "Are you ready?" And the guy's like, "Yeah, we're good." And he grabs his like wake surfing thing.
Oh yeah.
And goes back and tries to like surf the wake. Well, he was the driver. There's nobody else on board. He falls off. The guy that was on the wakeboard falls off trying to get back on, and now they're both in the water, and the boat's just driving.
Just what the fuck?
Yeah, they're idiots, because they're just like, "Oh, we're good. Shit. We won't fall." And it's just like, well, when the pressure's on, you both ate shit. Now your boat's just driving, and it won't stop unless somebody else like is able to intercept it, or it runs ashore, or
it runs into something else.
Runs into somebody else or something else. Yeah. It's
what the hell, dude?
Wear that lanyard. You got to shut it off. If you fall and you wipe out, I mean, especially if you're falling in, if it kills it, the prop stops spinning. If you fall in the wrong spot, you go like underneath that boat. That's not going to be pretty.
No. Yeah.
Anyways, safety first
on windy days, man. Good point. Good point, though. It's a bleak way to end, but a good ass thing that I didn't even think I had not written down. But I love making those points. Like, you gotta make sure to like do that. Don't be stupid. Like, I don't need this ugly vest. I got this designer swimsuit and a fucking 6-pack.
Yeah, and also like another thing that I did want to say that I forgot to say is, when it is windy like that, if you don't have means of fishing the windy side of the lake, don't get out of the wind, man. There's no point. Like, they do say that the windy side is more productive and the fish will set up over there, but the fish on the other side of the lake are not swimming all the way to the other side of the lake to hit that. They're still on that side of the lake. They're just not as active. You can still catch them.
Right. Yeah.
So just go work, just slow things down and fish the not windy side of the lake.
Yeah. More fish will congregate to the windy side because that's where the food is. But like on a decent sized lake, every single fish ain't swimming over there. That's just not how it works.
Right. Yeah. They might know that the current's going that way, but then they look where the current's going and it's just the fucking abyss. They have no idea what the other side of the lake's like. They've never been over there. And
so they won't leave they're not going to leave their comfort zone.
Yeah, I'm not leaving. I'll just wait for the wind to shift. They're not stupid. They know what it's like. There's fish that are just like us out there. I
Mhm.
mean, obviously they don't think as well, but they're just like, I don't need to eat today. Or like I'll chase down the
Mhm.
food a different way. The wind
Right.
will shift.
Right.
Eventually it'll come back my way.
It'll come back.
I don't need to risk swimming in open water and getting chomped.
Right. Right.
Yeah.
Exactly. All right, man. Whoa. That was fucking awesome. We now got to get into the ads and do the second half after the ads, where the second half is going to be. I don't know why I'm talking so quietly. That was fucking, I don't know. Anyways, let's get into the random take, damn it. We're going to talk about weird food we've eaten, weird food that we want to eat. I just want to
Yeah.
talk about weird food because I've been watching some shit on the internet and it just sparked that in my brain. And I was like, all right, I'm bringing it to the podcast. So we're going to flip over to that now. Welcome to the break, friends and family. This is a ad. It is officially an ad for Monster Bass, and that is realaf.tv/Monster Bass. That's right, realaf.tv/Monster Bass is an URL that you can follow to help out the Real AF TV podcast. If you go to realaf.tv/Monster Bass, that lets Monster Bass know that we from the Real AF TV podcast sent you, and this is where I pass the ball over to Tim to actually talk about what Monster Bass is.
I got the rock. All right. So Monster Bass is a subscription website that is awesome. They set you up with a bunch of good gear. If you're a new fisherman, they're going to hook you up with a bunch of stuff that you know works because it's curated by a bunch of fishermen who know what catch fish. And if you're a seasoned angler, they have a lot of cool stuff. I'm getting baits that I don't normally like see. There's baits from different companies and stuff, and some of them are super cool. But just so you give a little visual here and give you an understanding of what things look like, this is what you're getting. You order a box, it comes with a bag, but the bag is dope. Has like a little, says contents right here. You can write on it. Zipper bag, nice clear bag, so you can put all your stuff in there and get it all situated. And some of the baits, like it comes with the terminal tackle too. So like if you are a new fisherman and you're trying to get things set up, don't worry, they're gonna hook you up. So in a bag, like here's a couple of different things. KVD perfect plastic. These are worms that are set up that will work for like a drop shot or just a regular, you can put it on a Texas rig, you can just fish it weightless. So more worms from X Zone. Like if you're wondering, are they all brands I've never heard of? No, X Zone, Strike King, super popular.
Well, KVD. I mean, come on.
Yeah, right. KVD got
if you're into fishing, you know that.
Exactly. Got mustad worm hooks. So they're setting you up with the worm hooks. Monster Bass has some of their own stuff. So these are wide gap worm hooks that work with those. Nice. They're setting you up with like creature baits. These are like a jig trailer, or you can Texas rig these as well. And they set you up with a jig. There's a Monster Bass jig for you that you can put that on. Nice. Or you can put it on like these are it just says terminal tackle. I don't even know what they would call these ones. But it's like it's a tungsten like Ned jig head, but it has like a wide gap hook on it. So these are a little bit unique. But you could fish this with that creature bait. You could fish this with these worms. You could fish pretty much everything you want.
Yeah. Nice.
Setting you up with top water. There's a buzz bait. They got the bass popper. So we're covering all the different things. This is one of Monster Bass's own baits.
Nice.
Cool colors and stuff.
Yeah.
Rick Clun spinner bait. Rick Clun is a famous fisherman. They hook you up with stickers. And then when I was talking about, like baits that seasoned fishermen, I don't have any stick baits like this that walk the dog. This thing sits like this in the water, and when you fish it,
explain
it goes
that for the audio listener. It goes vertical from the tail.
It sits like vertical, almost like up and down. And when you start working it, it does the walk the dog type action, but it doesn't glide as far. It doesn't move as far, so it kind of stays put and stuff. Nice. So Yeah, man, they're covering all zones, and that's just one bag. Like that's the contents of what you would get in one bag, and all
Yeah.
that stuff is going to cost you way more if you buy it individually at a store. So it's a great deal. Plus, they're setting you up with cool stuff. If you're a new fisherman, seasoned fisherman, get you some
Right.
monster bass.
Right.
They're gonna hook you up right.
Yeah, for sure. That's realaf.tv/monsterbass. They'll get you over to the Monster Bass website, but it'll let you know that we sent you from the Real AF TV podcast, and that'll get a little kickback for us. Help us out by going to realaf.tv/monsterbass. And of course, don't forget about patreon.com. Patreon.com/realaftv. Remember, Real Like Fish and Reel, where we are set up to have you come over and join the community that is the Real AF TV community, sort of a fisher community, this combo community that we're trying. We think we have a unique perspective on fishing, from me being a geeky person, Tim being the fisherman, but also Tim being into video games, me being into video games. Like, you don't see a lot of that sort of generational representation in fishing, I think. Is that a weird way to put it, Tim?
No, I like it.
Okay.
And diversity.
Yeah.
We are diverse, generational, gapping fisher geeks.
Hopefully that's what we're building. And if you go over to Real AF TV, realaf.tv, you will see the link to the Patreon page. That'll bring you over there. That's the best way to support the Real AF TV podcast directly, and also the Real AF TV YouTube channel, of course, directly. We're trying to do more videos. We're doing a lot more videos. We got some videos content in the tank, and there's also the ability to get exclusive Patreon created content. If you go over to patreon.com/realaftv, you will see the different tiers that you can become a patron of.
Yes.
And we will start creating exclusive content, we'll say.
That's right. Yep.
So there it is. The best way to support the podcast directly is realaf.tv. Find the Patreon link right there on the homepage. Click on that. Give us a couple bucks a month. Hey, subscribe for 1 month. Hang out for a minute. Check out what we already got on there and take off. That'd be cool too. But don't forget, we're going to keep keeping the podcast free. So don't worry about it.
Keeping the podcast free, the YouTube. If you could like and subscribe on any of those, that would also help us a great deal. But the Patreon is definitely the best way to go about it.
That's right. And welcome back to the Real AF TV podcast, show about fishing random takes from 10,000 lakes. If you are joining us on Friday, then you didn't hear the first part about us talking about windy fishing conditions. It was a great one.
It was okay.
Go back and check it out.
I mean, it was a great one. I was saying it's okay, like if you didn't hear that.
Right. It is okay if you didn't, because
I just didn't want.
I know. I was like I just said it was a great one, and then you said it was okay. What the fuck?
Yeah, it was just bad timing. That's why I was just trying to be like, we're not being hard on you. If you're not here for the fishing, that's fine.
Right. Then great. You came for the character building part of the podcast, which is the second half, the random take, as we call it over here on the Real AF TV podcast. We're going to talk about weird food that we've eaten, weird food that we're just going to ride this out. Now I'm trying to keep the second half a little bit shorter, because we are primarily a fishing podcast. So I'm going to try, I try to bring the second half down. So we'll see how far this goes. But Tim, this one is something that I really am into. I wasn't a lot, but holy crap, if I really dove in over the last, 5-7 years.
Yeah, dude, for sure. Yeah, you definitely went at it harder. Like if we lived closer, I think we'd be going on weird food journeys all the time. But my wife is a super picky eater, so like there's not a whole lot of weird food going down in my house. Like I can't even cook a lot of weird shit because it smells weird, and then that like sets it off for her. So
same. Yeah, we're in the same boat. We would totally go on. Yes, we would go on for sure, because we're the same. It's the same situation. Even when I cook shrimp, I'm like, I'm gonna cook some shrimp.
I just got flipped off. It's not my fault. Eat octopus. She's just caked in the background.
I love octopus. That was totally on my list immediately.
Yeah.
I remember, dude, this was so many years ago. We were snowboarding. Well, I don't even think you were snowboarding. I think me and Sam were snowboarding. And we were like, you done? Yeah, I'm done. All right, fuck it. Let's see what Tim's doing. And we came up and we ate at a Chinese buffet.
Oh yeah.
And there were baby octopus there. I wouldn't eat
Yeah,
them.
dude.
That
Yeah.
was how long ago this was. Like I just said, I think it's been 5-7
Yeah.
years or something. I really don't. I wouldn't eat them. You did.
Oh hell yeah. Yep. Yeah, dude. I'm adventurous like that. Like especially if it's on like you know that you're probably not getting the best version of this if you're eating it at a buffet, but
At
I'm
a
still
Chinese
gonna
buffet.
try it.
Right. Right.
Like that's I mean, when we're talking about it, it's all weird to us. Maybe it's normal someplace else, like over in
Yes.
Asia.
Yes.
If you're in China, it's completely normal to you, but here in
Yep.
America, like this stuff is weird.
Right.
Baby octopuses, especially in Minnesota, we none of
Right.
this shit is even close to us, man. You can't get a baby octopus around here. So you
Right.
eat a baby octopus, those are crazy weird.
Yeah.
The only time I've had frog legs was at
Mhm.
a Chinese buffet, and
Oh,
that
really?
was weird. I would love to try Chinese or the frog legs someplace else. Like, I mean, it could be a
Mhm.
Chinese restaurant, but like a legit like where we focused on this dish,
Right.
not we just
Right.
made a
Not just
bunch of
like
them to throw out on a
flop
tray.
them in a yeah.
Yeah, it's like one of like 50 dishes we just made here. Have them. Jesus Christ, I'm
Right.
slapping over cans and shit. Sorry.
No, you I'm glad you said that because I forgot to. It is something that because I post some of this stuff on social media every once in a while. I've been slacking on it lately. I have a backlog actually of weird food, but back to the point. This is weird to the United States, the central of the United States,
Right.
right?
Yeah.
Like this is it's definitely not uncommon in other parts of the world, like octopus. For like we started out
Right.
talking because I go to sushi restaurants, I get octopus every single time. I fucking
Oh,
love it,
yes.
dude.
Yeah, dude. When you're at a sushi restaurant and you're having like a top tier chef prepare the stuff for you, you know,
Mhm,
like
mhm,
I've never even been at like a super high end sushi restaurant, but just a
mhm.
decent
Just a
sushi
decent one.
restaurant, you're
Mhm.
getting like you're like, oh man. Then you
Yeah.
know
Yep.
it's those levels of differences that make you
Mhm.
go, man, I really got to go find this someplace else. I would love to try frog legs someplace else because
Right. Like the frog legs.
when I had them, there's like a weird combination, you know, like
Yep.
it's like a fishy chicken, man.
Fishy.
You're
That's
like, this
exactly what
is
I
a
was gonna say.
yeah, you're like, this is just weird. I don't know, but if you had it prepared someplace else, it might not be weird where it's a fishy chicken. It might just be like
Mhm.
fish and chicken came together in a
Not a fishy chicken,
beautiful
but a
way
fish
on
and
this
chicken
dish. Yeah,
merged together.
they had those fish and that chicken got together and fuck. And
And
now
then
I got this delicious fishy chicken.
those fish and chicken fuck. That's how you get this shit. I got them so the first time and only time I've really had like official big old frog legs. Got them
Yeah.
from the one grocery store in our area of
Oh
where we
yeah.
grew up. They
So
had them.
you prepared them yourself then?
I did, and I did not
Okay.
know how to prepare them.
Right.
This was before I really got into cooking. This was during that weird phase of where I was like, here's how you throw stuff in the microwave and make it better. And thinking, why are there only two kinds of fish in the cooler of the deli? So
Oh.
anything that wasn't one of those two kinds, I was picking it up, right?
Oh, there you
If I
go.
could
Yeah.
find lamb, I was picking it up. It was like
Yeah.
but I wasn't diving into cooking yet, like we've talked about on the past podcast before. Like, me
Yeah.
and you, we cook all the time now, but this
Yep.
was before that, so I just fried it in a pan.
Right.
It was just like,
Yeah.
I got
Dude, that's
2, and I should have fried one in a pan, and then I should have fucking
right.
buttermilked buttermilk soaked the other
Ooh,
set,
yeah,
and then put some
sure.
flour on it and some breading and deep fried that fucker. And like, I should have
Right.
made some frog legs. You know what I mean?
Yeah, dude. Well, that's what I'm learning too with a lot of these different proteins is like just brining or dry brining makes a huge difference.
Oh yeah,
But
yeah, yeah,
some of that seafood is like, dude, it's like frog legs are like hardly seafood, because it depends on
yeah.
where they come from.
Mm-hmm.
But some of that seafood, you don't have to do that with like crab and stuff because those things have
No.
just been brining their whole life, waiting for you to eat them. It's a beautiful thing.
Right, right. But crab's
Big
not
old
weird either.
sea
Like, I don't
bugs.
know where in the world crab would be considered like a weird food.
No, I think
Central Africa,
everybody
maybe?
universally is like, this is the shit. Like
Yeah, I think so.
everybody knows. And it's such a weird creature too. Like that's the weirdest thing. Like we
Yeah.
all consider it to be normal, but they're
You're
giant sea bugs, dude. They
That's a
have an
really good point.
exoskeleton.
Uh-huh,
Like they
uh-huh.
are giant bugs that live in the
Bugs.
water.
Yeah. That's a really good point. It should be a weird food, but we don't consider it a weird food.
No, everybody's fine with it. Crustaceans, like
Right?
they're just like, yeah, they're not bugs. And you're like, "Well, they're
Mm,
fucking they're
but just because it lives in the water, right?
yeah.
That's why you think
You
it's
ever
not.
seen a bunch of small crabs? You see how many legs does a crab have? You think they
6 or
look like
8.
a bug to you? I think it looks like a bug to me, man. Yeah.
Right. Yes, exactly. Um,
Oh, is that they have 8, don't they? It's like a sea spider. They got like 3 on each side with
oh, is
like
it
2
always yeah,
claws.
is it 3? Is it always 3?
Giant
Yeah.
sea spider.
Okay.
Hate
Yeah.
spiders, love crabs.
What on the frog leg thing again? That was the
Yeah.
first way I had turtle.
That's the first way you had turtle?
Yeah, it was at the grocery store again.
Oh, damn, dude. I don't even know if I had turtle.
Yeah,
I would
like,
love to
we can
have
harvest
turtle.
turtles, dude. We should fucking try to harvest some
Oh yeah,
turtles.
dude, I can harvest. Yeah, tell me which. Oh, there's like the painted turtles. I don't know. We can't eat those, right? We gotta
No, I don't think
catch
you can eat the painted turtles. You
those.
can eat
We had
snappers,
it.
though.
There's an episode where we talked about this.
Yeah, it was like episode 2 we talked about turtles, yep, and so
Yeah,
my memory is that really in Minnesota, it's snappers. You can kind of that's it.
right. And we can catch snappers. I don't. I've seen them. I think we could just run up on them, dude. I've seen them on the roads.
Really?
Throw a stick. Yeah, dude. They come
Fuck.
because they come in to like lay their eggs and then they go back out.
Oh, I've never
And
seen a
then
snapper in the wild except for one time,
oh, for
but
real?
we don't have to
Dude.
get into that. It was not
Yeah,
catchable.
I have seen snappers a lot when I'm fishing because they live in like the mercury or
Mud.
like thicker weeds and stuff because they can
Mhm.
they can just disappear. Like you see one come
Oh,
up
yeah.
to the surface and you're
Oh,
like
yeah.
Jesus, and by the time you tell everybody else, look at the size of that snapper, it has seen you and disappeared into the muck. It's
Right.
just
Uh-huh.
gone.
Yeah. Yep.
But I've massive snapping turtles many times
Wow.
on Shamina.
Just sitting
Like
on the road too? Just, like, on the side of the road?
yeah, whatever time of year it is when we talked about that too when they come up to lay their eggs, they like it
Yep.
hot. So
Right.
yeah, it's like
Right. That's right.
midsummer.
Yep.
They'll come up into like somebody's yard, lay their eggs, and then they'll go back. So yeah, every once in a while you see them.
Wow.
Yeah. Do you
Yeah.
know where else? In Glencoe, if you go out to Oakleaf Park,
Yeah?
where they have like the walking path and stuff,
Okay.
they're like just off of the river.
Yeah.
Like I don't know if the winter killed them off or if somebody killed them off or it's just like a natural thing where it was like their time to die. I didn't think so, but there are dead ones everywhere out there. So I've got to assume that there's live
Really?
ones.
Holy shit.
Yeah,
That's
lots of them
crazy.
died off in the winter. And some people were thinking that like because they like hibernate, they like dig themselves in the mud or whatever. Some people
Mhm.
were thinking that like some people might have went out there and like pulled them up and like that killed them off because they weren't
Oh, they weren't
ready
ready
to
to
stay up or whatever, and
emerge
they
yet?
couldn't get back down into the mud
Yeah.
once it was
Oh,
hard for the winter.
right.
Once they're pulled out, that's kind of the end of that.
Right. Yeah. Being
But yeah,
reptiles.
dude, for sure, we could definitely catch them. We need to catch them. We need to eat them.
Yeah.
I've watched videos on how to prepare them if I ever did end up landing one. I
Me
just
too.
don't know what to like. I don't know how the hell to get them out of the water. Got to grab them by the shells, I guess.
Dude, yeah. You gotta just
Yeah,
grab them by the sides is what I've heard. So there was this one guy when after I had the one that was already pre-prepared from the grocery store,
yeah,
I told a guy, at work, And he's like, "Oh yeah, we'll just see them after a day fishing, and then we'll just there they are on the side of the road. We'll just pull over and grab some bitches and throw them in the boat."
Just
I'm like,
grab some
"What?"
bitches, throw them in the boat. That's what I've seen too. Is like they just throw them in the back of the truck. And the one video I watched, the guy's like, he's been sliding around back there all day, so he's probably gonna be pissed off. Just like what?
Watch your fingers.
Just like here, where cuts the head off, and then still goes. This is why you always gotta be careful, and like puts a stick in its
And
mouth,
then,
and with its head already severed, it still bites down, like
yep,
snaps that stick.
the
You're like,
muscles
holy
still
shit!
react. Yep, it's something in their tongue, I think, is what sets it off.
Oh yeah, that's what sets off an alligator too.
Oh, is it?
That's why people can like stick their head inside the alligator's mouth and pull it back out. But like if it's a hot day and they sweat,
Oh, and it
that one
drips.
drip of sweat lands in, snap.
Yep, their heads fucking chewed.
Then they get like
Have
swung
you
around.
on that? Have
Like
you ever
Joe
had
Dirt.
gator?
Yes, I have had gator at the
Yeah,
state fair.
they fair, right? Yeah,
Yep. Yeah,
Um,
alligators
it's pretty
pretty
good.
good, but not worth the line. It was like the first year they had it, and
Oh,
everybody's like, "God, try gator." Well, the people that talk like that already tried
right,
gator.
right.
Everybody here is
That's how
just
people
like,
that harvest gator and eat them straight out of the swamp talk.
yeah, oofta. You ever had these big old lizards? That's us up here just being like, well, boy, I gotta try this thing. I've never even seen a lizard. You're telling me I get to eat the biggest, most prehistoric one? It's gonna be like eating a dinosaur. I know what it's like going back in time now. This is crazy.
Yes, so good.
And then
I didn't
everybody
have a
says
long line
the
the day I
same
went, but I
shit.
went on a weekday. So
Everybody says the same shit. Everybody says, it tastes like chicken. And you're like, well, it's because it's fried.
right,
It tastes like
right,
chicken because it's cooked the same way a chicken is cooked,
yeah,
or the way you're used to it.
yeah.
But I could taste the difference. But
Me too.
yeah, it was good.
It was good.
I was impressed.
Yeah, I put it somewhere between frog legs and chicken. Really, like
Oh
it
yeah,
wasn't
for sure.
muddy. It wasn't muddy like frog legs are though. Like because that's where the
No,
fishy, muddy, mucky like fish.
right,
That's what happens to the frog legs. But this was kind of I don't know. I've never eaten a predator really. I haven't eaten many predators, bass. Count a bass or whatever.
right. All fish are eating other fish.
Good point. Yeah,
So
great. So put that in perspective. But I just didn't think that it was like, uh, I don't know. It wasn't gross and it didn't taste like chicken. It was like
right,
super, super lean chicken, if anything,
it
too.
was.
Like
Yeah,
a chicken breast, but
they
uh,
are very lean.
mhm.
So yeah, I definitely maybe there's some fattier spots. I've never even watched a video on how you clean alligator, but
Yeah, me neither.
yeah,
No, I've seen a few things,
it was
but
pretty tasty. Like alligator, ostrich is
yep.
a little bit different. Like
Yeah. Yeah.
that was another one where it was like $10 for like a slab of teriyaki ostrich, and I was like,
What?
ostrich might be good, but you season this shit weird. Like I don't like this
What?
teriyaki.
Okay, let me tell you
Yeah.
my ostrich story then, because this is
Okay.
dope. Carver County Fair. I used to work close to it.
Yeah.
And for a few years, me and the other guys in my department, we would go there for lunch because they would let you in for lunch. You just go in a polo shirt and some khakis, and they're like, "Oh, well, you're not here to hang out all day. Go
Nice.
ahead and go get lunch." And
Right.
so you just show up at the gate, and they were like, "Yeah, no entry fee. You're going to get lunch, aren't you?" And yeah. So we walk in, and there was a dude there selling ostrich burgers, dude. They were fucking sick.
Oh
We
yeah.
purposely went to
Right.
the ostrich burger booth, and it was just
Yep.
salt, pepper, tons
Yep.
of salt, tons of pepper on the raw burger, just fucking
Yep.
hot cast iron flat top grill.
I have had ostrich burger, but a lot of burgers and like meat sticks and stuff are a little bit tainted. Like
You're right.
it's good, but they
Mhm.
always cut it with other meat. You're never getting like 100% ostrich. It's like 50% ostrich, 50% beef, and that's what's giving you your different flavor.
Mhm.
And that's like the same shit in a beef steak too, where they're just like
Yep.
it's beef and pork and then wild boar. Like how much?
Uh-huh.
Enough. There's wild boar in
Enough
there. Enough to call it a wild boar
we
steak.
can put the sticker on it. Yeah, look at the
Yeah.
ingredients for sure. If you're out there looking at this stuff, any of you listeners are out there looking to like find, oh yeah, okay, maybe I'll get a little more adventurous, and you should, because
Yeah.
it almost always turns out good. But totally with the meat sticks, the jerky sticks, whatever you want to say, it says Gator on it. Look in the ingredients. They have to be listed in order, is my understanding, or at least listed in order for a certain to up to a certain point. It will
Yep.
be beef,
Right.
then alligator, and then
Yep.
you're like, oh,
Or
okay,
a lot of times it's like beef and then pork and then alligator. It's like there's
right,
2 other kinds of meats in there. So you're talking like, was it like 20% alligator and then you're like 40 other shit, you
right.
know? It's like, I don't know, man. But
Yep.
no, it's still all good. Like I still get adventurous. Like when I'm in a spot and I see those sticks, I'm still doing it. They're
Mhm.
like, this one's $5, and you're like, that's stupid expensive, but I've never had this, so I'm going to try it. And then you
Yeah,
eat
for
it, and
sure. I
most
do
of the
that
time
too
you're like, that's pretty good, but I don't know why. I just wasted $5, I think.
on a beef stick.
Yeah, because the beef stick is never like the experience on other stuff
Mhm.
is cool. Because
Yeah.
I would definitely try all sorts of stuff. Like people are scared of like Rocky Mountain oysters.
Oh
They're
yeah.
like, those are bull testicles, and you're like,
You're like, yeah,
yeah, I'd
they
try them.
are.
I'd do that. Or
Yep.
like goats or whatever. Like I'm not scared of that stuff. I'm not shying away from it. If it's properly cooked, I'm not trying to eat any of that shit raw, you know?
Right. Yeah, 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 yeah.
But if
For
it's
sure.
properly cooked, yeah, I'll give it a shot. Why not?
Yeah. Yeah.
If I
So
don't like it, then I don't eat the rest of it or whatever.
right. So on the like properly cooked thing, the bizarre foods scene, like I love that show. I think Andrew Zimmers has a great show, and it's a really good way, I think, to open your mind to eating
Oh
things
yeah.
that are outside of your norm. And why not eat things outside your norm? Like
Yep.
it's so many good points are made on that show. If you don't watch it because it's not a gross out factor. That's the part that reels you in. Watch the
Mm-hmm.
show, and he's just like, he's totally legit about it. Like, yeah, here we are. This is what this country does. We're gonna eat it.
Yeah.
But bugs, dude, always eating raw bugs on that show.
No
And you
thanks.
said properly cooked.
Yeah, dude, I don't like bugs at all.
Yeah, they freak me
Like,
out. I don't like things that move. Like, I don't like. I want to try
yeah.
lemon ants. He says like he always talks about lemon ants.
How big are they?
They're like
Pretty,
our ant size. Like
regular
it's
ant?
nothing you haven't seen before.
I'd eat ants.
Yeah, I think I'd try that
I
too.
I think I've already had chocolate covered ants before.
Oh, have you?
It's just like a little piece of chocolate where you're just kind of like, oh, okay.
Right.
You don't even really taste
Just
them. Where
right
you're
in
just
there.
like,
Mm-hmm.
yeah, where you're just like, what is the point of this? Like, you just
Mm-hmm.
is
Right. You
is there
just
literally like nutritional value? Like, am I getting a little bit of a protein snack? Is this like chocolate covered almonds? Like,
right. Mm-hmm.
you know,
That's a really
I
good
don't know.
question. That could be true because have you heard about crickets lately?
Oh
D-
no, I've heard that people eat them, but like not anything lately.
Well, it's just uh, I don't know if it's just because of like this is my wheelhouse and so the algorithm's feeding me it or whatever, but like crickets are becoming a big thing in the protein department because
Okay.
they're so efficient and they're easy to farm. They're easy to turn into cricket flour and
Whoa.
mix into other things so you don't really notice them, and they don't take up a lot of land and other food like cows, right? They're just super,
Yeah.
super efficient sources of protein. And I'm like, well, cricket powder, I'm in. I would try roasted
Yeah.
crickets, just like
You
straight
can
up
make
dead roasted
flour out of
cricket.
crickets?
Yeah, they just grind them up so fine that they're just turned into powder, but it's full of protein. It's like a protein powder, but it's made of crickets.
That's crazy.
Yeah, dude.
Dude, all I can think of is like back in the day hearing stories on the news where they're just like, technically, we are allowed to have 3 crickets in every
Right.
100 candy bars or whatever.
Yep.
So you're probably going to eat a little bit. And everybody's just like, you're telling me that you could be a piece of cricket in my flour or whatever. And now they're just like, my flour is all crickets. No, what?
It's like, what
Okay.
the fuck, dude? So, bef- like, okay, what brought this up is I've been watching this show on, Meat Eater.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yep.
Okay. So Meat Eater on the Meat Eater YouTube channel, they're always kicking out new shit. There's the
Yep.
show Pardon My Plate, which is I envy this show because I've had different versions of this. So that's never mind. Not gonna get into that. This show is the new Bizarre Foods. It's a different kind of Bizarre Foods. It's Bizarre Foods with
Okay.
hunting only, right? So
Yeah.
this guy goes out and he always hunts it. And it's not, they don't actually show the hunting, but he always says, like, oh, I got this one over here doing that, and I got this doing that, and blah, blah, blah. Gets me every time. This is totally my fucking wheelhouse.
Yeah.
Coyote, crow, coot,
Ooh.
crow.
What's
Well,
a coot?
coot is the little shitty black mud duck that nobody shoots and
Oh,
eats. It's
yeah.
super
Okay.
overpopulated. It's like nobody
Yep.
kills
I
it. Nobody.
know. I know what they are.
Yeah.
Yeah. They wreak havoc, right? When you get them in your lake, everybody's like, fucking coots.
Yeah, everybody hates them because they're
Yeah.
not. Yeah, so everybody just shits on them.
Yeah. I think
And
they eat a lot or
okay,
something.
yep. So okay, so yeah, we coyote, crow, coot, bobcat, carp, and goldfish. Those are the ones that I noted.
Goldfish.
Half
Dude.
of that episode I knew because we did an episode on
Yeah.
goldfish. Episode 5. Episode 5, we did goldfish. And we
Yeah.
talked about goldfish and koi, but mostly about goldfish because that article was in the local paper down here by me.
Right.
It was fucking nasty, they said.
Oh,
Basically,
really?
they
It's
said
just
it
like,
was
that's
gross.
gross.
They had eater-sized goldfish, dude. I mean, like, I
Yeah.
don't
And they were
know.
still gross, huh?
Yeah,
Oh, I guess those are probably pretty old for goldfish, though, huh? When they get big.
well, yeah, they were probably fairly old. I
Yeah.
don't know how fast they grow, but in the episode even that we talked about and on Pardon My Plate, they talked about how fast they reproduce, which is like
Yeah.
every 3 months or something. Like
Because
they're super, super fast reproducers. So
if
I don't know how
they're,
fast they grow, but they reproduce like fucking crazy.
yeah, if they grow pretty quick and those weren't that old, then I guess they just taste like shit. But sometimes the old fish, the
Right.
bigger fish, have been around long enough where they're the ones that have been able to like absorb the shit in the
The shit.
water over time, and they taste like garbage because they've been taking
Right.
in the chemicals and everything.
Right. Right.
So when you got like a nice young fresh fish,
Right.
then you get to eat good shit, or like it's
Right.
better, it's
Right.
cleaner meat over time. But
Right.
dude, I've never even like considered goldfish to eat.
I wouldn't
Well,
know
I
me
guess
neither.
not considered it, but you think about it, and you're just like, oh, that'd be funny. But then you're like, it's such a waste of money.
Right.
Like, how many goldfish do I got to go buy to be able to eat some of these?
Right,
Like,
right. And then you go back to our episode and even this episode of Pardon My Plate and stuff like that, and you think about, well, they're super invasive. They're like you just got to find the right pond. That's it,
right?
and you could pull a ton of
Yeah,
them. But
dude.
then what?
There's a pond near me that I think stocks goldfish. I think they put them in just to have like goldfish. It's like a
You'd
housing
have to,
development,
okay.
and the
You would have to
the
stock like 12, and then it would just blow up from there. But I don't know. I'm
yeah,
just
I
making
don't
shit.
know. I don't think this thing's deep enough to
Oh, it
like
freezes out. Okay,
survive a winter kill. So I
right.
think they just stock them. I don't know, but there's plenty of goldfish in there. It's real weird.
That is
Just looks like a
super
pond in
weird.
the backyard. It's like a circle, like housing development, and the pond's in the
Uh-huh.
backyard, and we go walk around it sometimes. So we don't live there, but it's just a path you can
It's
take.
just, and there it is.
And they
It's
have
just
goldfish in the back and like a fountain and shit. And yeah,
okay. That's
just go with
weird.
a net. I don't know. That's technically on private property. I don't know if I can just go and like scoop up some goldfish and just try to eat a couple of
They're so invasive. You can everything I know. You can just
them.
grab them out with a
That's
net. Like fuck them.
that's crazy. Carp doesn't seem that crazy to me, but like all that
Right.
other stuff, I would definitely try everything.
Yeah,
I'm down to try
dude.
everything
The
as
coyote is
long
the
as it's.
one thing that I'm not so sure about. But if it was
Oh,
there,
we'll do it.
dude, I would do it. I would do it. If it was right there
Yeah.
in front of me, if they were like preparing a coyote, I'm like, all right, let me get my hands dirty. I'm fucking
Oh,
in. I'm doing
for
it.
sure I would eat coyote, because here's the thing: coyote is the only dog I wouldn't feel bad about eating. I've heard
Okay.
dog, like
Yep.
some people eat dog. I would like to try a dog, but I don't
Sure.
want to kill a dog. But a
Sure.
coyote's a dog I don't give a shit about.
Sure.
So,
Yep.
so I would
Nope.
try it. Yeah, for sure.
Full on. I got you.
Yeah,
You make a
yeah.
really good point. You sold me. Again, I'm like, okay, I'm in. It's just one of those situations where I know what a coyote eats. I know how scavenger they are. Like they
Yeah,
have
when
this
they're
they have this like cleanup crew about them.
right.
And
Yeah,
I hesitate. That's my only hesitation when it comes to weird food is cleanup crew animals.
yeah.
I don't know why, because it's so dirty ahead of time. I know it's not dirty
For
once it's cooked and
yeah,
all that shit,
for
but
me, like when they're eating this stuff, I know that they are kind of like that cleanup crew scavenger type, but I figure like their body's like filtering out that bacteria, whatever they
right.
ate isn't
Yeah.
getting in there. And when you clean it, just like you clean a fish or whatever,
Mhm.
you can see the bacteria or like the worms and stuff in the meat if it ate some real shit
Right.
that it
If
shouldn't
it was
have.
actually like really fucked
Yeah.
up, you should be able
Yeah.
to see it.
So if
Yeah.
you saw like if it was one of those that ate something it shouldn't have and then you see it, you're like, "Yep, no, this is out."
Right.
But if you get it and it's clean meat, you're like, "All right,
Cook
you
it
know?"
properly and you should be
Yeah.
fine.
Yeah, I give it a shot for sure. I don't think there's, besides like what you were talking about with like live bugs, I don't think, or like raw bugs even, that doesn't have to be live. I don't even care. It could be dead raw. Like if it's not in like chocolate, if it's big for sure, I'm out. That was the
Yeah.
one thing, like I've watched Fear Factor before and they're like, I don't like heights, but they're like jumping from car to car or whatever and they got a harness on. I don't give a shit. Like
Right.
I'm not
I know the
nervous
harness is
about
gonna
this
save you.
harness.
Yep.
Yeah, I would do all this stuff. The moment they get to the bugs, I'd just be like, peace. They'd be like, it's $100,000. I'm like, that's a giant live cave spider.
Right. Yep.
I'll
I'm
see
not
ya.
eating that cockroach. There you
Yeah.
go. I'm not gonna
Listen.
bite into that live cockroach. Just not doing it.
Yeah. Yeah. Fear is not a factor for me. That's gross. I'm not doing it. I'm not scared of doing it. That's just
Yep.
disgusting. I'm
Yep.
not doing it.
Like the big fat grubs, like, I like you see those when they just eat a grub, a chubby
Yeah.
grub, and it has
Oh, and the
juices
shit
inside
like
it.
squirts
Fuck
out.
you,
Oh,
dude.
dude.
Fuck you.
I know.
Put that thing on a
Like,
stick, put it over the fire, different story.
right, if you cook it up and I know that it's not like all this gross shit coming out of it when I bite it,
Right.
or I can feel it moving around because it's still alive, like,
Yep.
no thanks. Ugh.
Mm, no.
And like, ugh.
Yep.
Nope.
I so
But
have you seen those, where they take the tentacles because it's still alive,
oh
and the
yeah,
tentacles
dude.
and are still moving, and they
Where
eat the
they're cooking
moving
it up.
tentacles, and it's
Yeah, I've
like
seen
the
it. Yeah.
stimulation is part of the experience. Fuck
Uh-huh. I've
you,
seen it where they're
dude.
trying to eat it and like the tentacles are like curling out and like grabbing the girl's face and shit while
Yep,
she's trying to eat it.
yep.
Yeah, I do that. Yeah.
Oh,
I
god,
think that
I
one would still
the
kind of
texture.
gross me out, but it's not the same. It's not a bug. It's a meat. I've ate just that meat before, so I know what it's
Sure.
like.
Yeah.
Like it's not,
I wouldn't
dude.
be able
Bugs
to
are.
handle
I
the
just
moving.
hate bugs. I do not like bugs whatsoever. Like,
It's reasonable.
ugh.
You're it's definitely reasonable. So
Yeah.
before we wrap up here,
Oh,
I think we should go. Oh, okay.
are we,
Go. You go. Go ahead.
one other weird food that I saw on a episode of Dining with the Chef.
Oh,
I don't know if you ever
I
seen
don't
that.
know
It's like a
this one.
PBS. It's like a PBS. Like, I
Oh
think it's
yeah.
like a Japanese show. Because they go, it's, I love it. They have such a over the top, like every time they eat something they're like turning towards the camera or turning towards each other and they're like,
Yes.
I love it, dude. I love how
Yeah.
into it they all are. But there was this one spot where they went to the water and they like netted all these tiny little like clear fish and they just picked them up and ate them out the net.
Yes.
Like
Yes.
all of them alive, just like
Yes.
grabbed like a handful of like little fish
Mhm.
and just go,
This was Japanese?
oh, it's salty. Oh, and you're just like, dude, this
Were
is
they
so
in Japan
awesome.
when they did that?
Yeah, dude. Uh
Oh my
huh.
god. Because 'Cause I've seen it
Yeah.
in
So I
Italy.
don't know what kind of, yeah, I don't know what kind of fish those are, but yeah, they were in like, they were just on like a wharf in Japan. Like they're on the
Yeah.
dock, just like
Yep.
scooped up some fish and they're like, here.
Yeah.
And then they
I
ate
think it
them
was
straight out the
Italy.
net.
It was Italy or Spain. It was on Bizarre Foods.
Oh
It was like
yeah.
it's like a $300 plate or something like that. Like they're
Damn,
fucking
dude.
ridiculous. And all they did, the chef put olive oil on them, which of course, if you're Italy and Spain, like you just fucking, or it was
Yeah,
Italy or
olive
Greece.
oil's going to
Yeah,
everything.
you just fucking put a bunch of olive oil and salt on it. Done.
Yeah,
Serve
they
it.
call it
$300 a
antipasta.
plate. Yeah,
Antipasta. Bloop, bloop, bloop.
that's pretty much what was happening.
That's pretty dope, though. I would do it.
I'd eat
Hell
that.
yeah, olive oil. Yeah, it just sounds like it's salty because, again, just a bunch of little fish been brining their whole life. And then you just
Right.
throw the olive oil, like a high-end olive oil on there.
Right.
Just,
Right.
heck yeah, dude.
Boom.
I would
Eat it.
love to try that.
I would too. I think we should try carp for reals. After watching this Pardon My Plate, I'm like, oh my
Oh,
god, this
yeah.
is impossible
Got
to
to figure
cook.
out how to catch them first.
But yeah,
Like,
we
I,
should
I
do
think
like
I know how to
chicken
catch them,
maybe.
but it's so weird. Like
Mhm.
different carp rig where they're like a bunch of corn hanging off a hook or something. You don't actually like put the corn on the hook. You like have
Mm,
all the corn hang off the bottom of the hook. It's like a piece of
weird.
thread, or there's other weird bait where they're
Yeah.
making it with like Kool-Aid mixture and other stuff. Like,
Oh yeah, yeah. Bottom feeders. They're sucking because they're
yeah,
just sucking shit off the ground that smells bad.
yeah, it's weird stuff. I'm not familiar with it, but yeah,
But we could
if we
try.
figure out how to catch them, I'll definitely eat one.
Yeah. And the what about the bobcat? That was I wanted to ask about the bobcat quick, and
Oh
then
yeah, dude. Again, as a cat, where I wouldn't feel bad about eating it. Like a house cat just seems weird to eat.
mhm, mhm.
Like I don't care about cats like I care about dogs, so it'd be a little bit different story. Like it depends, Like some
Yeah.
cats are super nice. If I saw one hissing and stuff, you'd just be like, all right, whatever, I'll eat that one. But no, uh, house cat, I don't think I would want to try unless I was in a country where like they're just like feral cats that would be house cats here, but they're like wild
Mm,
cats.
mhm. Yeah.
So
Yeah.
if it's a different country and they're serving it up, I'm game to try anything. Like
Yeah.
if you already killed it
Yep.
and it's already meat, people are already gonna eat it.
Right.
I'm game for whatever. I'll try it.
Yeah, I do that too.
But
I would do that too, but yeah,
a
it's just
bobcat again, yeah, dude, I would eat it for sure because that's just like a top of the line predator. That's not a scavenger, I don't think at all. Like,
right from yep, that's the other that was the one thing that went through my head with that too. I'm like, "Huh, I never thought of that as food, but why not?"
yeah,
Because it is like, yeah, that thing's just killing live animals from what I understand. Maybe I'm
yeah, dude.
wrong. Hit us up in the comments on the YouTube video if
Right.
I'm
No,
wrong.
I'm pretty sure they're out there like eating birds and other small animals, that it can catch.
Yeah.
I would for sure try that bobcat.
Yeah.
That's a that's a different one where I'm curious about it, but yeah, dude, if it's meat, I got no I don't care what it eats, you know?
Mhm.
That's like I've ate chicken gizzards
Sure.
and that's the shit that literally filters out all the other shit. You
Right.
know, if
Yeah.
you've ate that, you're pretty much good to go. Like
Yeah,
even if it's a
like, I've had liver.
scavenger.
Liver is literally your body's filter, like
Yeah, yeah. I've had the filters before. I've ate the filters.
mhm,
I'm cool with eating the muscles of the thing that eats other dead stuff.
right,
If it ate something rancid, I would assume it got really sick and died, or we wouldn't be catching this one.
right.
I'm just thinking that like when an animal's too far gone, they don't mess with it.
Yeah, yep,
So
good point,
yeah, dude,
really good point.
I really can't think of anything that I would not try as long
Yeah,
as it's properly cooked.
right.
And even still, like if it's raw, like beef tartare, I consider
Yeah.
that to be kind of weird to eat raw beef, but I
Oh,
would
for
do it
sure.
as
I do
long as
it.
I knew that it was a place that was um, prepared properly, or even if I was a little bit nervous about it, as long as I'm close to home.
Right.
They had a restaurant when me and my wife went to Mexico,
Mhm.
and not saying that they would have prepared it wrong, but I was at on vacation,
Yeah, you didn't wanna get
and
the
I'm
shits
not
on vacation, that's
not risking it.
reasonable. That's totally reasonable.
Yeah.
That
So yeah, dude.
yeah, I would do tartare on my own
Yeah.
if I could find if I knew like a butcher or a place where I was like, oh, that cut of meat, because I don't want to use a fucking tenderloin. I'm not going to spend $12 on a tenderloin and not throw it on the grill, right? So I
Right.
want to find a reasonable cut of meat from a meat vendor where I'm just like, it's cool, because
Yeah.
tartare is still cooked in acid, in quotes.
Yeah.
It's still acid cooked.
Right.
You squirt the shit out of the acid and then you let it sit in the fridge for 2.5 hours or whatever,
Right. Right.
and that's
Right.
sort of cooked.
Yeah. So the other thing too, though, is you want to know where it's sourced from, because that's where you can get into some trouble.
Right.
So you want a high end cut from like directly from the source.
Right.
So you're
Exactly.
not so you know it's not being made in some big box type operation where it could
Right.
be coming down the same conveyor that chicken came down.
Yep. Or
Because
down the same conveyor that the fucking ground beef was in, and the ground beef is all the shit parts that get
right,
ground up and have been covered in shit. And that's how
yeah,
you get
right,
the shits.
yeah, and the 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 beef and the pork just doesn't have the same kind of bacteria that poultry does. That's why you got to
Right.
cook poultry to
Right.
such a higher temperature,
Yep.
because you got to make sure everything's dead.
Yep. Because
So it's
salmonella is
just not the same. You
a
got to
different
make
beast.
sure. Was that?
Because salmonella is a different beast.
Mm-hmm.
Yep.
Yeah, salmonella is definitely a different beast.
Yep.
Not
For
trying to
sure.
mess with that. Salmonella, can kill you, dude.
It
If you don't
could.
treat it properly, it could take you out.
That's true. That's true. Well, so can E. coli. And, ugh. Anyways,
Oh yeah, all that stuff. Get it from the proper source so you don't have to worry about that. And that's where I'm game with anything cooked. That's why I'm like raw bugs too. They're
sure.
just
Like,
shipping
what was
living
that
in a
crawling
cave.
on?
I don't know.
That just come off a pile of
Cockroaches.
dog shit?
Yeah, cockroaches I heard just like can't get killed by anything. Like how much like bug killer has this thing ingested? You know? I just
Yeah, 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 yeah. For sure, for sure.
they just keep going, dude.
All right. All right, man. We should probably wrap this shit up that with the the stuff that we always got to do at the end. It's Real AF TV. That's right. Real like fish and Real AF.TV. It'll find everything on the internet that we have. If you go to realaf.tv, you'll find the YouTube and the Patreon and what else am I missing? Oh, the social media links. It's all there on realaf.tv.
Yeah.
And don't forget, if you're listening to this on iTunes, you give us a review. That would help out a ton. If you're on YouTube, do the subscribe thing. I don't know, Tim. What am I missing in all of this? Rigmarole.
I think you nailed it, man. You hit the reviews, you hit all that good stuff. I
All
think
right.
that's it,
All
man.
right. Awesome. Well, I hope you enjoyed the episode of the Real AF TV podcast. Please share with your friends. Now, Tim, I got to ask a question.
Yes.
Bone marrow.
Oh, yep. Yep.
Yeah,
Yeah, dude. I've wanted to try bone marrow for a while. I haven't ever got my hands on it. I know you have. Yeah.